Here. Here.
Mike Richmond.
Here.
Held in accordance with due public notice thereof and pursuant to the New Jersey State Sunshine Law. Notice of this meeting was advertised in the press, and a copy of the same has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. All applicants are hereby advised that should you receive board approval tonight, you must come forward and sign a form which informs you regarding the timing of receiving building permits and mercantile licenses. At the end of your case tonight, please see the board administrator to sign the two information sheets.
Okay.
Approval minutes?
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Okay.
Resolution.
Okay. Approval of resolutions and decisions, number 12, 2014, Margate Property Management, David Trapp. Number 13, 2014, Robert Neustadter. Number 14, 2014, Bruce Lindeck Goldstein. Number 15, 2014, Rod Dalinka. Number 16, 2014, Lori Freeman and Wendy Freeman. Do I get a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, our first case tonight is Bart Gladstein, 107 and 109 South Gladstone Avenue, blocks 7.01, lots 4 and 5 in the S30 district.
Yeah. Brenda and Tom. D-variance. It's a D-variance.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Brenda and Tom are excused. In the S30 district, to grant a D variance for accessory use swimming pool on lots with no principal structure. Also D variance for the straddling of 2 lot lines and possibly others. Taxes are current and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied.
Thank you.
Before I do that, Mr. Chairman, we should announce that the last case, Cassandra Banco, 304 North Essex, will not be heard tonight, and Mr. Bailenson may have something to say about that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Since I believe, my name's Chris Bailenson, I represent that applicant. I believe the plan will change significantly, so I am going to renotice and re-advertise that application. Not going to make a request to be carried.
Okay.
I think there may be some variant changes and things of that nature, so we will renotice.
Okay, so if anyone is here for that case, that will not be heard, and it will be renoticed, and it is scheduled for next month. Will it be ready for next month?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'll be sworn now for the first case. Roger Rubin. I do. The applicant owns 4 lots on the east side of Beach Block Gladstone Avenue as follows. 105 South with a house on it, 107 South vacant land, 109 South also vacant, and 111 South the Blattstein main house on the beach. All lots are 50 feet wide by 62 and a half feet deep. Per the plan submitted by Michael W. Colchin's architect, the applicant proposes a 20-foot by 50-foot swimming pool straddling the vacant lots 4 and 5 with an extensive patio area surrounding it, a storage shed, a pool equipment structure wherein the mechanical equipment within it meets the 5-foot setback, and a 5-foot fence surrounding the whole pool area, with the front fence along the street side being 5 feet back from the front property line. Behind the front fence is proposed a 5-foot deep landscape area with plantings specified to be no higher than the fence. No changes are proposed to the two bookend house lots, other than the fact there are to be gates from the pool area to both houses, so lots 3 and 6 are not the subject of this application. The pool layout shows distance from the water edge of the pool to the rear property line of 24.5 feet, distance from the pool to the front fence of 13 feet, and equidistance to both side property lines of 25 feet. The variances required are a D variance per ordinance 175-33A1, which says no accessory building shall be constructed on any lot on which there is not a principal building structure. In this case, the pool resides across 2 vacant lots with no principal structure on either lot. D variance for the pool straddling 2 lots, which is a general principle of zoning and common practice. Associated with this is another technical C variance, wherein the pool does not meet the 10-foot setback from the lot line which runs down the middle of the pool. And finally, a C variance for fence setback. The front fence must meet principal building setback on Gladstone Avenue, which, based on the 200-foot front setback survey, is 13.5 feet. The fence is proposed at 5 feet back from the property line. The applicant has arranged his 4 lots as a kind of family compound with main house on the beach, a house for children and grandchildren at 105 South, and an open pool area straddling 2 vacant lots in between and accessed by both houses. The board should consider inherent benefits of benign arrangements such as this in terms of Margate's image and atmosphere as a family-oriented seashore community. Second, the zoning board and this planning board has awarded similar variances for accessory uses on vacant adjacent lots, such as the Gerowitz Gazebo and Bayshore Drive last year, as well as other pools in past years. Usually there is an accompanying condition regarding what happens to the pool, such as removal, when the adjacent house and the pool fall into separate ownership. This should be discussed and decided by the board, and the results made a condition if approved. Number 3, the large distances to the rear as well as side and front property lines provide ample space for privacy, noise abatement, and safety. It is nice to see a pool 24.5, 25, and 13 feet from property lines rather than the 6 and 3-foot intervals most recently approved. 4, permitting this proposal will preclude development of 2 additional houses on a 100-foot stretch of prime beach block land, which also means fewer cars and less land use intensity in other respects for at least a number of years. Beside open space in lieu of building mass for the block front in general, previously unavailable beach ocean views to the houses to the rear of the pool area will be made possible, in addition to more light air and breezes. And finally, the front fence variance speaks to the question of views. Board field visits should indicate no diminishment due to the angle of the already built-up beachfront deck of 111 South. The angle and the already built-up beachfront deck, which projects toward the street. The intentionally low height of the proposed landscape area is appreciated. No conditions other than per above number 2 are suggested at this time. Mr. Hankin.
You got it. Okay, for the record, you're right. Steve Hankin, having the pleasure of representing Bart Blatstein. He's here this evening. He looks older. He's actually younger than me, though. He's here on what I would call a very neighborhood-sensitive application. I'd like to pass these out, if I can approach. Described by Roger Rubin pretty good. What we have basically is Bart Blatstein has two bookend lots. Normally, we wouldn't have to be here. You might be wondering why we're here for a swimming pool. Well, the reason we're here is because the definition of accessory lot in your ordinance. And the definition of accessory use, which means it has to be on the same lot. Both of Mr. Blatstein's lots have on and other property owners in the past. So the purpose of your ordinance is satisfied because the owner of the home, which is the principal use, also has common ownership with the two lots. So that's why. Bart himself, with his wife and children and grandchildren, reside in both homes. And, of course, he wants the swimming pool for that particular use. These are not rental homes. What's required, as I said, two things: use variances because the swimming pool won't be situate on his principal lot or the other principal lot where the homes are, and a fence, which we'd like the fence to be 5 feet from the property line. John Barnhart is here to briefly show you that there will be no interruption of views to any extent whatsoever as a result of that. The reason, as you will see, why we want the fence. The variance, as I said, I think we've described why the variances are required, and the basis for the variances will be described by John Barnhart, but I'd like to summarize these. You will see that the special reasons for a D variance are satisfied for a number of reasons. We submit they are. We think that this guides the appropriate uses of these two lots. John will show you an aerial, for example, showing you how dense the block is. This is a real break to the block, not only because it allows a community benefit, in this case, air, light, and views to the neighbors, but because as well it decreases the traffic on this very short beach block. It definitely promotes a desirable visual environment. Bart really is pretty well known for his unique developments, and this is going to be a beautiful, beautiful block when he's done. It's a beautiful block now, as is Frontenac and the streets which surround it. But this is going to really add some real flavor to a street which will substantially benefit from less density. And as I said, there'll also be less traffic, there'll be less congestion, and as I said, the fence will provide for to allow a greater setback for the pool from the rear property line. In terms of the negative criteria, John will describe to you what he feels, how he feels this serves the negative criteria, and that it serves rather than substantially impacts in a negative way the general welfare. It serves the general welfare because everything is open, and there is a community benefit here. It's not just a benefit for Bart. His neighbors now have views, which is going to be a great thing. And also, it does not impair the intent of your zoning ordinance. It really adheres to the intent because we agree the accessory use provision of your zoning ordinance, because we agree that in the event those two homes are no longer in common ownership with these lots, the pool goes. So it's the same, the end game is the same, the result is the same. And you also see the luxurious landscaping that's going to be provided. And note as well, for example, the pool equipment. It's not only 5 feet from the rear property line, but it's going to be housed in a structure with sound deadening material as well. So the neighbors are not going to have to deal with that. Having outlined that and said that, I think it really is a great application, and I'd like to present John Barnhart to run through this. John? Some have questioned John's qualifications. I, for one, don't. John, would you run through basically the application yourself in terms of the positive criteria?
Mr. Hankton pretty much.
Yep.
So the intent is to develop a swimming pool between those two homes, which would then be able to be utilized by each of the homes. You're familiar with pool applications. We've seemed to recently had one month after month with regard to setbacks and coverage and things. This one's a little different, as Steve pointed out, because this is a pool that actually meets all or well exceeds all the setback requirements and the coverage requirements. And I'll just quickly go around the lot. The rear yard setback that is required in the zone, as you know, is 10 feet. The proposal is 24.5 feet, 2.5 times the requirement. Both of the side yard setbacks, which again are required to be 10 feet, are 25 feet. And the front yard setback is proposed to be 13 feet. So you have a pool that's essentially situated in the center of these two homes, or of these two lots, but it is pushed away from the homes to the rear, because if there is a potential impact from any of the surrounding homes, it would be to those rear homes, as Steve mentioned. So we're trying to create a nice landscape area, a privacy hedge, before you ever get to the patio that's adjacent to the pool, to help create some noise and privacy buffer from those neighbors and for those neighbors. So why are we here this evening? Because we meet all the general criteria of your ordinance for a pool. As Steve mentioned, the intent is to maintain these two lots as building lots so that they can be used for construction of single-family homes sometime in the future. Your land use ordinance does not permit a swimming pool on a standalone building lot. So it does require, as Mr. Rubin's report identifies, 2D variances or use variances. From a land planning standpoint, we believe that those variances are very easily justified on a number of bases. First being preservation of air, light, and open space. As you can imagine, the development of this swimming pool and a 5-foot-high fence around that pool will allow for dramatically greater views of the ocean and air, light, and open space across these lots for enjoyment by all of the surrounding homes, obviously Mr. Gladstein's homes, as well as the homes to the rear and the homes across Gladstone Avenue. So it creates a real sense of openness on a beach block for 100 feet of frontage, which is something you very, very rarely see. Secondarily, as was already mentioned, it's a pretty great reduction in burden of traffic and parking in the beach block. Everybody knows how difficult that can be, especially in the summer months, and this, at least for the time being, takes 2 home building lots away until this pool is removed, and reduces that congestion and those parking demands and traffic demands. And I think we can also justify or put forward a special reason why the purposes of zoning are advanced with regard to aesthetics. He's creating a pretty unique and desirable visual environment with this scenario, where he's going to have a nice landscape front yard it'll be a low-level landscaping. The background behind that would be a fence, and then he intends to also then landscape on the inside of that fence. And the 2 homes that flank that front yard area are very, very beautiful structures. So I think that on that basis, the purposes of zoning are advanced. And talking about the negative criteria, as you know, the negative criteria is a 2-prong discussion. The first being that there is no substantial impairment to the zone plan or the zoning ordinance. But for the request to allow the lot lines to stay in place, that's the only reason for the D variance. So we meet the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance in every regard with regard to the position of the pool, the coverage of the pool, the setbacks of the pool, the height of the fence. All of those elements meet your criteria. It's just leaving those imaginary lines in place that create that D variance. So with the restriction being placed on these lots that pool would be removed prior to any sale, as Mr. For the surrounding buildings, we're creating a sense of openness that those homes would never have had if we do develop, 2 or 2.5-story homes, which would be permitted on this lot. So really, we believe that this actually creates a positive for the surrounding public and the general public. That justifies, in our opinion, the D variance. With regard to the C variance for the fence structure, the proposal is to have the fence set back 5 feet from the property line. It is intended to be a custom-built fence by Mr. Gladstein's contractor. It will be a very beautiful fence, and it will have a low-level landscaping in front of it, as I mentioned, to create kind of a tier effect. There will be some lawn area or some lawn area in front of that, low-level landscaping, and then the barrier fence, and then landscaping on the inside. Really, what we saw is the only potential negative impact with that fence deck. It's been there for many years. If you're a pedestrian or even a person standing on a porch on one of the homes up Gladstone Avenue, that kind of is your pinch point with regard to view. So this proposed landscaping and fence at that 5-foot setback, it really doesn't change that. And the second thing that I looked at was, well, you have obviously Mr. Gladstein's porch on the home next to it. Somebody, it's conceivable that somebody would be standing there and looking across, and you also have the homes that go up the street that also have front porches. Well, if you look at it, you're talking about a 5-foot barrier. So, it's about this high. All of those porches, because those homes meet flood elevation, they have front porches that are up 3-4 steps. Then they have railings. Those railings of those homes are actually, I believe, going slightly higher than even that fence would be. So, if a person were standing on their front porch, trying to look across this lot, they're going to be able to look right across. So
the reason I wanted to go through that scenario is just to show you that there is no, even though we are asking for that deviation, there's no blockage of views, there's no blockage of air, light, and open space as a result of the position of that fence and that landscaping. So, yes.
I'd like to mark for A1 8 photographs of the street. I marked it.
Okay.
Which reflect, we think, what John has just testified to in terms of the absence of any impact of the fence setback.
Can we walk through
Yeah.
them real quick, Steve? Okay, so you can see in the upper left corner, that is Mr. Gladstein's H block home. You can see the porches I was talking about, and the elevated level of the porch and the railing. Our 5-foot fence will essentially meet the height of that top of that railing. So if you're standing on that porch, you'd be looking straight across the top of the fence. And the next home down, and then the home after that, heading toward Atlantic Avenue, are very, very similar in layout with regard to their front porches. You can see here, the vacant lot, that would be standing on Gladstone, looking back toward the two homes to the rear. And as I mentioned, you can see the windows in the back of both of those homes, especially on the second level. By constructing this pool and not building homes at this time, those homes now are going to be able to enjoy an oceanfront view even from the back of their house as well. You can just quickly go through these. You can see here in the center photo that elevated oceanfront deck that I was discussing, that Mr. Rubin's report also mentions. So if there was any concern about the position of the fence along that front property line, you can see that's really the pinch point of views. So this fence will have no greater impact. Again, here you're looking right down the sidewalk of Gladstone, our side of Gladstone Avenue. If that fence was in this picture, you probably wouldn't even see it, and that's another simpler photograph. So the photographs do help us, help to justify what I had just discussed, to show you, and I'm sure most, if not all of you, visited the site and saw exactly what it is that I'm talking about.
We also have an aerial, but I think that the board, well, why don't we just introduce the aerial as A2?
Oh, sure.
We have an aerial which reflects the neighborhood scheme and plan. However, one house is still in it. It's not current.
Yeah, this
otherwise.
area is a little dated.
A2, Stanley? I'll mark it as A2.
Yes, that's fine. So you can see the oceanfront home, Mr. Gladstein, and the beach block home. This home is no longer there. That home has been since demolished. So you can see the layout of the property. The pool would be right in the center of those two lots.
There are a couple other things I'd like to mention as to why we're here. I just want to cut that. A couple things. Number one, the movement of these buildings may slightly change. They may come out, and the shrubs may go behind them. We want to take a look once we're building it and see how it looks. Mr. Gladstein may want to move them up a little bit so we can have a continuous row of close growing trees or hedges. There may be a little less grass, there may be some papers here and there, but we won't exceed coverage. And we want to amend the plan to make clear Mr. Gladstein's, because one of the neighbors to the rear, Barry Kahn, who was here this evening, called us and inquired about the privacy aspect. And we have agreed with him, and you will hear from him tonight during the public session. We have agreed with him to maintain trees of at least 8 feet high, aside a 6-foot fence, maybe higher, at least 8 feet, and to maintain them permanently as long as that pool is there. We've agreed to that. We think it's good for him, and frankly, we think it's good for us. And there is one other special reason why this should be granted, and that is because Mr. Gladstein is my daughter's landlord. So you may want to consider that in your deliberations. Other than that, we have nothing further.
We need the site for that. The legal site will take for that.
So, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you have any questions of the extent of the application.
Does anybody from the board have any questions or comments?
Steve, this drawing that you handed out,
Yes,
is that part of your submission?
yes, it is.
Okay, does it need to be identified, A3?
A3.
Because the landscaping and so on is a bit different.
Good point. It's actually shown on that, but we didn't mark it, and you're
Right, so we'll mark it as A3.
Because I think the low-level landscaping John mentioned to the street side of the fence is important.
I do too. That's why we've added it.
John, do you have a landscape schedule, planning schedule?
Mr. Colchin's actually prepared this plan. I don't think he's actually picked the species yet, as of yet, is that correct?
Want to sworn?
For the record, please.
Michael Colchins,
Your last name?
Kolchins.
You swear the testimony about the
I do. I started on this project on a Saturday with a request that we can get this done by Monday. So I
I've been
wasn't
there.
trying to come up with a specific design. I was trying to provide the intent and show that we're going to meet all the zoning restrictions and leave room for Mr. Gladstein to be able to get a landscape designer at some point and come up with a real design.
Roger, can we have a condition that that gets submitted for your approval?
What condition would you like to specify, that they specify shrubs and sizes?
Yeah, I think we ought to look at the
Okay.
particular species they're putting.
All right.
And how about the design of the fence?
We haven't figured that yet. We'll tell you it's not going to be a plastic, what's there now.
Do you anticipate it being more open or more solid?
Anticipate more open board or solid? I would think solid. Yes. I would think solid for privacy aspect.
That's what I think you should do.
Yes.
But
With the shrubs against it low, build up, and then shrubs behind.
Roger, I think, again, to you, a design of the fence.
Okay. No problem.
That's all I have.
The buildings in the back that we're talking about possibly bringing out a little bit, how tall are those buildings? These two?
Or just restricting it.
So they're
Storage, one's a storage and one's for the cooking. Joe, they'll probably stay where they are, but once it's being done, he wants some flexibility. Move them out a little bit, put the shrubs behind, that's all.
Anybody else on the board? Okay, anybody from the public like to speak? Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
Are you bringing those buildings closer and putting landscaping behind them to create a buffer?
That's what we would do, yeah.
Because the sound, there will be sound from the pool equipment, right, in that little,
In that shed.
Right.
Yeah, but within the shed itself, it will still be 5 feet from the fence, from the property line. But there will be sound that
okay,
you move the shed.
closer into the property with landscaping as a buffer? Okay, thanks.
As you get older, you tend to miss things.
Anybody else? Okay, would someone like to speak from the public?
My name is Barry Kahn. I live at 108 South Frontenac. It's a property that shares the rear property line with Mr. Gladstein. Upon receiving your notice, I investigated the project details, and once I determined what my concerns were, I called Mr. Hankin up and Mr. Gladstein and expressed my concern about privacy, and made a recommendation that they would add hedges along that rear property line of no less than 8 feet, to be maintained no less than 8 feet for forever. And that would give us privacy from them looking into our home and vice versa. So they very, very cooperative and gladly agreed to that. And as you see, it was added to the design. I'm just here to acknowledge that that's my understanding upon the approval of this project, that will be a stipulation to be included in the project and remain, and that with that included, I'm very supportive of the project. I think it's a very positive thing for the neighborhood, and Mr. Gladstein and Mr. Hankin have been extremely cooperative with that.
So we're going to make that a condition? Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that'll be a condition of the approval. Anybody else from the public? Okay, public portion's closed. Can we get a vote? Oh, I did. Sorry.
You want to state them, or you want me to? Okay, what I have on the conditions are stipulation that when both houses go out of the family ownership, when both houses go out, the pool has to be removed. Submittal of revised plans showing the installation of an 8-foot-high evergreen privacy hedge across the rear, and stipulation that that has to be maintained at 8 feet. And revised plans showing the details of the landscaping throughout the site and of the fence for approval of the zoning officer. Okay?
That's also what I had as conditions. Essentially, the board's going to, I'm going to direct the board for someone to make a motion in the affirmative with the following variances, which are being requested by the applicant. D variance for the standalone accessory structure, which is the pool, which was described in Mr. Rubin's report. And since it's straddling 2 lots, there's also D variance for the other lot, that would be lot 3 and 4. Because of the pool's location, which is right on the property line between those lots, there's also a setback variance because it's going to be 0 feet from the property line. Also, the request for C variance for the front fence, the required distance for the setback is 13.5 feet, and the proposal is 5 feet. So that'd be a motion for those items and a vote on those. The applicant has proposed that there's special reasons for the D variances. Mainly what I heard on the record was the open light, air, and space. And for the pool, the setback will be further back from the other property owner and closer to the front yard, which would help with the noise and privacy. And also there was special reasons given for, one of the reasons was given for parking. It would eliminate parking and traffic on the lot, which is a positive item in their opinion. So those are the reasons, and if someone could make a motion in the affirmative for those variances.
I make that motion.
I'll second. Glenn Wozleski?
Especially considering we could get 2 more McMonsters on those lots. I think there are nothing but positive aspects to this application. It would be a tremendous visual benefit to the neighborhood. I vote yes.
Margaret Gubernalty?
I believe the 2 use variances are justified based upon the positioning of the pool, the coverage, the setbacks, as well as the fence. That the neighborhood is less dense is a great positive. I see no negative impact, and I approve the application.
Craig Palmisano?
I also agree with my fellow board members on the D variances. And the C variance with the fence, it doesn't seem to be a problem, 5 feet back. Being at the oceanfront line, it sticks out pretty far there, so it's equal to it. I agree with it. I vote yes.
David Carter?
I agree very much with the proposal. I think it's a tremendous asset to the town of Margate.
Remy Pelosi.
I vote in favor of the application for the reasons stated by previous board members.
Joe DiGirolamo.
Yes, I vote in favor of the application, as well as the fact that there was support from local neighbors and they accommodated them. Yes.
Mike Richmond.
I'm going to vote yes. I think the reduction in density in the neighborhood far outweighs any of the variances requested, so I'm going to say yes.
Application passes 7-0. Steve, will you please sign?
Okay, our next case is J&D Building and Development, LLC, 9305 Winchester Avenue, Block 327, Lot 100, in the C1 District.
Thank you.
You're welcome. To a C variance for building coverage and possibly others. Taxes are current and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied.
Roger Rubin?
Swear the testimony read in this matter be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do. The subject property, presently containing a very old and sandy damaged duplex structure, is 39 feet wide by 125 feet deep, having a total area of 4,875 square feet. It is proposed via the plan submitted by Peter Weiss Architect and Arthur W. Ponzio Engineers and Planners to construct a two-story FEMA-compliant duplex, each unit being a floor and having 3 bedrooms with 5 off-street parking spaces, as opposed to only 4 required. The 6 bedrooms are the same as the 6 bedrooms in the existing duplex being demolished. Other amenities include front decks, a rear covered patio, at-grade storage rooms, some enclosed parking, and substantial individually fenced-in backyards with substantial landscape areas and plantings. This matter came before the board in January with a higher building coverage of 38.5%, and it was at that time denied. During that action, the board approved variances for lot width, 39 feet versus 40 feet, and combined side setbacks, 14.43 feet, required versus 14.0 feet as drawn. These are no longer variances for the board in this reduced plan, per consultation with Solicitor Bergman. The new plan has shrunk the building, eliminated the den in each unit, and reduced building coverage from 38.5 to 33.0. The change is legally significant, allowing the board to hear the case at this time. The only variance remaining is building coverage, 30.625 permitted versus the requested 33.0. Comments. Translated into floor space, the permitted size of each unit is 30.625% of 4875, or 1,492 square feet, whereas each of the proposed units is 1,609 square feet, larger by 117, a considerable reduction in the overage, which previously was 383 square feet. 2, there are several positive factors to consider, including the greater than compliance with landscape area minimums, 53% versus 35 required overall, and 62% versus 60 required in the front. Also, the front setback is 24.8 feet rather than the 20.7 required, providing more openness and less mass on the street front. Similarly, the rear setback is 32 feet 10 inches, whereas the requirement is only 25 feet, with consequent benefits to side and rear neighbors. 3, site inspections as well as testimony expected to reflect that of the previous hearing will indicate reasons to be considered by the board relating to the coverage and massing of buildings surrounding the proposed project, and the impact of there being a wide variety of housing types in the immediate vicinity. 4, the revised plan is certainly a good faith effort to more closely comply with the ordinance and its integrity, to match somewhat better the neighboring properties, and to give Margate a duplex that will stand up to the size and quality required for proper neighborhood amenity, as well as value and livability for prospective owners. If approved, no conditions are suggested at this time.
Just want to make an announcement. Margaret Gubernolte has reclused herself, and Brenda Taube and Tom Collins are back.
Good evening, Brian Callahan of the law firm Callahan Thompson on behalf of JB Development. We were here a couple of months ago. We took care of the lot size variance and the combined side yard variances, and that left us with coming back tonight after talking with Mr. Poncho's office, Mr. Barnhart, and Mr. Weiss, to come up with a design that made it more compatible to what the board was asking us to do. We think that this plan does. Reduces the dent, gets rid of the dent altogether, and really reduces the size of the property. Our variance request is, we think, de minimis to go forward, and it provides, I think as Roger says, a quality value and a quality livable space into the neighborhood. So without further ado, let me call Mr. Barnhart, and I'll walk you through the one variance that we're requesting.
Just state your name again for the record, please.
John Barnhart.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Stan, we've marked this as A1, which is the variance plan. John, why don't you walk the board through the application?
Sure. I think everybody's pretty familiar with this case at this point, but I'll give you a 10-second refresher. The property in question is known as Block 327, Lot 100. It's a lot that has a frontage of 39 feet and a depth of 125. The proposal is to demolish, I believe it is now demolished, the existing two-unit structure that was on the lot, and to develop a brand-new two-unit structure, as you see configured on this Exhibit A1. This application was before you, and some variances were granted, as Mr. Callahan already pointed out. However, the coverage variance as part of that application was not granted. So we are before you this evening with what we believe to be a substantially different application, in that we have reduced the coverage dramatically from the original request. The original request was a coverage of 38.5%. We are requesting, and it's slightly different than Roger's report. Roger's not here. On the submitted plan, it showed 33.4% by our calculation. I believe Peter's plan may have showed 33, but for the record, we're requesting 33.4%. It's almost immeasurable, but I just want to make sure it's clear. So, you know, this is a dramatic difference from the original request, because when you compare those two building coverages, it's a reduction in the footprint of this building of approximately 250 square feet. That's a lot. It pulls the building away from the rear setback, or away from the rear property line, as Mr. Rubin's report points out. We're required to be 25 feet in the rear. We're now almost 33 feet of a rear yard setback. We are in excess in the front yard setback. We are almost 3/4 over 1.75 times the amount of landscape coverage that's required on the lot. As you know, your ordinance requires 35% of landscape coverage. This application proposes 53% of landscape coverage. So when you look at the fact that we have greater front yard, greater rear yard, dramatically greater landscape coverage, when you look at those three elements together, in my mind, that clearly justifies that you're not building a building that's too big for the lot, because you are exceeding all the other Vulcan area criteria. So we believe that for those reasons, the minor coverage variance is justified. Looking at the surrounding land uses, I know there was discussion on this at the last hearing. Looking at what's permitted in the zone, what can be built on lots around here, they have to be larger lots. Multifamily buildings are permitted 45% building coverage. Because we're two-family, we're restricted to the similar coverage of a single-family home. This happens to be a commercially zoned area where coverage can reach up as high as 50%. It hasn't been developed commercially, as you know, but the reason I want to mention that is because coverages at this location in many lots that surround this are much greater than what we are even requesting. So although we're deviating from the ordinance, we are very compatible with our surrounding land uses. And the excesses that I've already described, we think really mitigate any potential negative impact that 3% coverage variance request would create. It's less than a 10% deviation from your land use ordinance, which, from a planning perspective, that's de minimis. So we believe that the positive criteria are established for everything that I've discussed. I think that the negative criteria are established because from a zone plan or zoning ordinance standpoint, I just described to you what this zoning district does permit with regard to building.
Oh, we're working again? All right.
Mr. Rubin says
Yeah, you're working. I just described to you what your zoning ordinance does permit with regard to building coverage, and we fall well below some of the other uses that would be permitted in this area. With regard to substantial detriment to the public good, or the second prong of the negative criteria, we've torn down a home that Mr. Galantino, I believe, had the red sticker. The home was in disrepair, it was borderline dangerous. That home has already been torn down, that blight has been taken away. We're proposing to build a brand-new structure, meeting all the FEMA requirements, meeting the base flood elevation. So from a public standpoint, this is a public benefit, not any, and by no stretch could it be looked at as a detriment. So I think that the positive and negative criteria are clearly established here, and that this variance can be granted for the application.
I don't have any other questions of Mr. Barnhart. I would open it up to the board. I have Mr. Weiss here, in the event that anybody wants them to walk through the fact that we eliminated a den, but I know you have a long schedule, so I'll defer to the board. If you need me to bring Mr. Weiss up to testify, I'll do so. If not, I can close with Mr. Barnhart.
Any questions from the board? Okay, anyone from the public that would like to speak? Okay, public portion's closed.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the project as is.
I think it's pretty basic, but I'll read it anyway. It's a C variance for building coverage. Required is 30.625%. The proposed as amended is 33.4%, which is, from the previous application, it cut down the square footage for the coverage by over 250 square feet. So there will be a motion in the affirmative for approval of the C variance.
I vote in favor of the application, pretty much for all the same reasons I voted at the last meeting. Not too many variances are requested. It's a flood damaged property. I think it's going to have very little negative impacts to the neighborhood, if none. And the positive, there's a lot of positives to the neighborhood, so.
Considering the obvious hardships imposed by a lot that's only 25 feet wide, I think a single variance requested of approximately 10% in coverage is very minimal, especially since other bulk requirements, minimums, have been exceeded. I vote yes.
Commissioner Talby?
I'd like to thank the developer for coming back to us with this proposal. I approve.
I agree with Brenda. They did a nice job on reducing the size of the structure. I approved it before. I approve it again.
I vote yes, based on the revision and the improvements.
I vote in favor of the application for all the reasons previously stated on the record by the other board members.
I vote in favor of the application for all the reasons stated previously by the other members of the board.
I vote yes. I think it'll be a big improvement to the neighborhood.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next case is Jeffrey Steigerwald, 9703 Winchester Avenue, Block 331, Lot 22, in the multifamily district to grant a C variance for all items listed in zoning schedule and possibly others. Taxes are current and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied.
Roger Rubin?
Swear the testimony about to give is true,
I do. The subject property is a one-story, two-family dwelling which was severely damaged by Hurricane Sandy on a lot of 25 by 69, or 1,725 square feet. It is located right next to a 7-unit condo, sometimes referred to as the Seven Sisters, which was also severely damaged and will no doubt be demolished when the banking complications are resolved. To the left of the proposed structure is a recent vintage duplex about 10 feet away from the mutual property line. To the rear is a small house just a few feet beyond the rear property line. Its continuation is not known at this time. The proposal, per the plans drawn by Studio One Architects and submitted herewith, are for the demolition of the existing structure and construction of a single-family home in a two-story over parking configuration, having 3 bedrooms, 1 parking space, and front and rear decks at the first floor level. Total height is within the requirement of 30 feet above elevation 12. It is actually only 26 feet above that elevation, so 4 feet lower than the ordinance maximum. The house is 17 feet wide at the base and 21 feet wide at certain portions of the first and second floors. Variance is required. This is my list, not that of the applicant or the architect, but I have discussed it with the applicant and the architect, and I think we are in agreement that this is the comprehensive list. First, there's overall lot landscaping, 35% required. It is 18.8. Second, and a slight correction of what I wrote, front landscaping, 60% is required. There's 24 square feet, and I have found that 24 square feet after consultation, and they'll show it to you, but it actually comes out to 19.2%, and that's the variance, from 60% to 19.2. Then, of course, there's lot width and area, 40 feet and 2,500 square feet are required. Building coverage, 40% is permitted. This is 63%. Roof pitch, flat roofs are not permitted. There is a large flat area on the second floor roof. Part of it contains air conditioning units, and there is a stairway to the roof area, which the flat area is about 225 square feet. Parking, 2 spaces are required, 1 is provided. Front setback for the house, 13.7 feet is required. It is 8 feet to the base of the house and the first floor, and 3 feet to the second floor. Front setback for the porch, the requirement is 5 feet. It is 3 feet as shown to the front porch. Rear yard, 13.8 feet is required versus 0 to the first floor deck, 10 feet to the first floor house, and 7 feet to the second floor of the house. Left side setback, 5 feet is required. It is designed at 3 feet to a portion of both floors, but 5 feet to a substantial percentage of that wall. On the right side, 5 feet is required. It is shown as 3 feet for the most part, but only 1 foot to a significant portion of the right wall. And finally, distance between principal structures. 10 feet is required versus only 4 feet between the structures to the Seven Sisters building, which, as stated above, is a tear-down waiting to happen. Comments and considerations. Site visits, of course, will indicate relative impacts to surrounding houses. 2, the board may consider the existing structure being demolished, as well as the fact that the new house will be 1 unit instead of 2, and will have parking off-street, whereas the existing has none. Any reduction in nonconformities should be pointed out by the applicant and the architect, and these may be relevant. 3, the aesthetic upgrade and the flood-elevated structure are distinct pluses. The house is also larger in overall mass than the existing. 4, most 25-foot lot cases before this board have much greater depth and area. Usually they're 125 feet deep and 3,125 square feet area. The diminutive size of this lot is unusual and a hardship to the owner for that reason in building a livable home. And finally, the board should understand that Mr. Galantino's office, the building inspector, has declared the existing house to be substantially damaged, requiring demolition or elevation. But the engineer's report submitted with this application by George Ray Thomas concluded that it's a recommendation that the structure be demolished and replaced. No conditions are suggested at this time. You're on.
No, I'm actually the homeowner. I came right from work, so that's why I'm in a suit. I'm sorry. Jeffrey Steigerwalt, 9703 Winchester Avenue. Yes. Good evening. I've come before you tonight to request relief from the code to allow the construction of a new single-family dwelling that will replace the existing two-storm family dwelling that was severely damaged during Superstorm Sandy. The variances requested are necessary to construct a structure large enough to service our family needs. Since the existing structure sustained enough damage from the storm to require elevation and numerous inspections by qualified engineers and contractors, suggested that the structure be demolished and not elevated. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a little nervous. I apologize. I don't do this every day. So, sorry. We good? Oh, sorry. Okay. Demolished, not elevated. Rebuilding on a 25 by 69 lot that is non-conforming in both lot width, area requirement variances. I feel I've requested the hardship required to petition this board for those variances. We have tried to reduce the non-existing nonconformities as much as possible without sacrificing the needs of living space. In your exhibit packet, I have included the report from my engineer suggesting demolition and the letter from Mr. Galantino and photos of the existing house. I just want to point out a few, and obviously Mr. Rubin just gave many of the variances that we're requesting, but I just want to point out a few of the existing and really harp on the point that we're taking a two-family dwelling and shrinking it to a single-family dwelling. We're not here to ask for, a stack-on-stack condo and try to sell them condominium. We're really just here so our family can live happily. The second is the landscaping is now approximately 1.4% coverage, and we're going to go to 19.25% coverage. Our front landscaping is 24 feet, and that's being increased as well to approximately 28 square feet. The lot width will remain at 25, and I just want to point out it's a very, very, very small lot. It's 25 by 69. It's not 25 by 100. So when we were taking into consideration designing the house, we did the best of our ability to shrink the house in and to shorten the house from currently. Currently, on the left side of the house, we have about less than a foot to the property line. On the right side of the house, we have a 3 foot. In the rear, we're approximately 6 feet, but with the deck, it's to a 0 property line as we requested coming forward. And the current house basically is on the sidewalk. And we've pulled that back 8 feet on the ground floor, but because of the deck on the second floor, it reads 3 feet because we have a deck out front. And many of the things with the deck is for comfort of living. In addition, the rear deck and the front deck, believe it or not, when we were designing this, our right side of the house, we are building a cinder block wall. Our proximity to the neighbors is extremely close. So we built a firewall, and by doing that, our interior of the house is 15.8 feet. So it's a very, very narrow house, and we also want to protect the neighbors as well. So we don't have any windows on the right side. It's a cinder block wall that goes straight up. And on the ground floor of that side, it will remain exactly as it is today. It's 3 feet. But because of the narrowness of the house, as you come up to the second floor, it does bump out, and it does bump out at the third floor closer to the property line due to the fact that we need it for the rise of the stairs. And it's only in those sections of the stairway on the right side that is why we need it there, in order to get the rise so we can get to the next level. As far as the front of the house and the rear of the house, the zero property line to the rear of the house with deck, believe it or not, if you look at the house, we had to put the staircase in the center of the house. And because the center of the house is where it's located, if for any reason there was an emergency or fire or anything of that nature, the front window and the rear windows would be the exits, and instead of jumping all the way to the ground floor, that's also why we have it lower than the standard, we can get the kids to a deck. All right, we haven't increased anything that we already have. Currently, it's a duplex, so there's a single bedroom in the back, 2 kitchens, living room, etc. Here, we still have maintained 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. There's nothing different than we currently have, but because it has gone up, we've created a little bit extra living space, but it actually benefits the kids because now we can actually walk around the bed instead of actually having to going up against the wall. It's just, it actually worked in our benefit for that. As far as the flat area on the roof, the reason for the flat area on the roof was we could not figure out a way with the architects to actually put or place the air conditioning units. Because the air conditioning units by standard, from what I understand, have to be a foot away from the wall, have to be elevated approximately 6 feet, and again, I'm kind of generally going out here. So either on the right side or the left side, we couldn't place it without actually having to physically walk under that. Well, it really didn't work out, so we placed them on the roof, and if anyone has an air conditioning unit, they get pretty loud. So our proximity to our neighbors, if we kept them on the ground floor, would actually be a problem for noise as well, and plus for venting and everything that has to go with those units. We just didn't have enough room on either side to do that. So the roof in that design is paraffin, as well as we are green people, so we actually are putting solar panels on to help us with the energy efficiency of the property. So in order to maintain these solar panels, we need access to that so that we can clean them and properly maintain them. So the way we've designed the house actually is efficient for the family, but most importantly, we have shrunk the house on both sides, shrunk the house more narrowly than it is existing today. From the front and the rear, we've pushed it back. We've created off-street parking, which is huge, because right now we've taken it from a duplex down to a single-family home, created parking. And in that garage is where our hot water tank is and where the utilities for the property come up, such as the water and everything else. So that's why we have it enclosed with a garage door. And also aesthetically, with the bump outs on the left side, that's where the TV is, they actually create overhangs over the door and lighting so that we have lighting around the perimeter. So with those overhangs, it's protection against weather. So when the weather, we just all had snow down here. You know, if you open the door and you don't have something over top of your head, you're going to walk out into the snow and things can leak in. We're trying to have an overhang and protect ourselves. And not only that, it is more aesthetically pleasing than just having a square box. So we just made minor adjustments on the left side in hopes that, one, they do serve a purpose, and two, it's more aesthetically pleasing, to be quite frank with you. Going down the list, I kind of covered everything, so I apologize I didn't address them directly. But if there's any questions, I can answer them at this time. I know everybody had exhibits, but I wasn't thinking I needed exhibits because they were here. So, again, I apologize. I don't want to take up too much time. I also have 3 neighbors here on each side of the house in support of it. Mr. Rubin just mentioned the individuals to the rear. I talked to them. I can't say anything, but they did, they're all for it. It's great. The problem is their house was severely damaged as well, and they're living out of the house now, too far away to come until the house is finished. So immediately surrounding us, except the new houses to our left, everybody's been impacted, and we're all feeling the same way. So we're all trying to support each other and move forward here. Does anyone have any questions? I'm sorry if I did this incorrectly, but I think it was the best way to go. I turn it over to the board.
Real quick.
Yes, sir.
I may not have been paying full attention. You have the air conditioners on the flat roof.
Yes, sir.
But why do you need such a large area of flat roof just for air conditioners?
Honestly, the very simple answer is if you look at the way it's designed, it's really to access the solar panels so that we can clean them and maintain them. And if you look at it, it's a paraffin roof, so we're not, there's no way, it's not being used for anything else other than for what we have. In addition, there's no door going out to it. It's actually just kind of a hatch door to get there, but because of somebody having to maintain not only the solar panels, but to work on the units and everything else. We needed a way to get them up there. Well, as you can see how tight the houses are on either side, it's the only way to do it.
So you would accept a stipulation that that could not be used as a deck?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I have a 8-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 10-month-old. I don't want them anywhere near it, to be honest with you.
You said there was less square footage now than there is that's existing?
No, I did not. No, I said we did gain a little bit of square footage, but it actually makes it better for us because in the current situation with the 3 bedrooms we have, you can't walk around the bed. So now we can actually walk around the bed. It's pretty nice. We're excited.
When you actually designed this, and I'm sure you had a strong hand in the design.
I had a strong hand, yes, sir.
And right now, you're looking at 12 variances, and I know a lot of them are because of Sandy and because of the size of the property, but...
Yes, sir.
You have a huge storage room on the ground floor. You could have actually designed it to provide 2 parking instead of 1, eliminated 1 variance at least.
Hey, may I address that?
Sure.
We actually had thought about that, but we couldn't put the stairway anywhere else. So therefore, we have the garage up front, and because the stairway is smack dead in the middle of the house, we actually wanted off-street parking for 2. We just couldn't figure out a way to get the staircases through the house, and I've asked the architects to do that. So you are correct. I would have loved to have two-car parking, but the way because of the narrowness of the property, to bring the soil pipe up, to bring the water into the house, and to put the stairway in an effective manner, we couldn't figure out, no one could figure out how to do it. I mean, I'm sure there's a way, but the alternative, from what I understand, and again, I'm not an architect, and this is where their hand was, if we made a straight up the side of the house, okay, with the width of the house currently, I forget what the standard width of a staircase is, okay, but it would be a long road to get to the second floor, and then another long stairway up to the next floor. By doing it this way, with the stackable, it made it easier. We have a mother-in-law. I also have to back up. We bought the duplex, so it's a family house. My mother-in-law and father-in-law bought it with us. Unfortunately, my father-in-law passed away last year. So we have an elderly woman as well who's trying to go up the stairs, and part of our concern with that was trying to get her up 15 stairs just to get to the first floor. I mean, it was a significant amount to get there. So in saying that, it would have also narrowed the garage because of the space that the stairway would take up to open doors and different things of that nature. So honestly, I'm not saying that, hey, it's perfect, but it came out to be the best solution that we had.
Do I read this correctly, that you're extending the deck, which is at the second level, even though it's called the first floor, right up to the rear property line?
Currently is that way right now, and
But right now, it's a deck on the ground.
It's approximately 2.5 feet off, but yes, sir, you're correct. And it wraps around the side of the house.
And this would be 8 or 10 feet above the ground.
Yes, sir, it would. And again, part of the reason for that deck is because of the shortness of the property. If we had a 100-foot property, I could move the house back, and I would have a deck that would be meaningful that the family could use off the kitchen. But if I wanted to grill or anything of that nature, I'd have to walk through the living room, down the stairs, out the side door, all the way to the back to get it. Not to say that I couldn't do that, but if my, different family members are cooking with the kids running around, it just seemed that having a deck off the back would be nice. In addition, having that deck there, in all honesty, when we were talking about fire safety for kids and different things of that nature, it's the way to get people out of the house if there's a situation. We have somewhere for them to at least jump onto.
I appreciate all your problems with a small lot.
Yes, sir.
And there are a lot of problems.
Yes, sir.
But as Mr. Collins says, you're asking for a load of variances.
Well, yes, sir.
And having a building 1 foot off a side property line, I mean, I can see where, because of the narrowness of the lot, the 3 foot, might be a necessity to get a decent building on there. but coming zero in the back with a deck and 1 foot on the right-hand side, you say your neighbors don't have a problem with them, but those neighbors are not necessarily going to be the neighbors for the rest of the time. And if somebody builds on the house behind you, and you indicated they were, you're going to be very friendly with them.
Well, sir, just to point out, the area behind the house is open area for the Seven Sisters. The next house is approximately 30 feet away.
You tell me that little house right behind this property is not an independent lot?
Well, it's approximately 30 feet away. But it is an independent lot, but it's approximately 30 feet away.
There's a brick patio behind his house.
That belongs to the Seven
It's about
Sisters.
20 feet to the next property.
Right.
The Seven
Am I right?
Sisters lot, Clem, is an L-shaped lot. It goes up Monroe and then turns
Yes.
behind this.
So it's not a
Is
buildable
that other
area.
little house part of this property? Is that
No,
what you're telling me?
I think it's beyond the
It's beyond,
back of the L of the Seven
correct.
Sisters.
It would be proximity from myself to a little bit beyond the beginning of the stage there,
So the back of this deck would be 30 feet from that house?
approximately.
Yeah, I agree.
But you don't know what's going to happen with the Seven Sisters. It's in court, and they own the property that's directly.
Right, they own that L shape, correct?
Right, they could actually come right up to the property line.
They have a zero boundary with us on the right side right now. So currently with the Seven Sisters, their steps, well, some actually build onto the property, but that's beside the point, actually are at zero. The Seven Sisters currently are at zero on their property. We maintain that 3 feet on our side, and will continue that on the ground floor.
So the rear deck right now is 10 feet.
The rear deck currently is 6 feet because we've shrunk the house from 63 feet long to approximately 51 feet long. Have taken it off the front curve sidewalk, and we've actually pulled it in from the back, the rear lot, approximately 4 feet. The deck currently is approximately 2.5 feet in the air and extends to the zero boundary line, which abuts the brick patio of the Seven Sisters. And then it would be approximately 30 feet to the next house.
Right, but the rear deck, how big is the rear? I thought I saw 10 feet.
You're saying that that deck is not 10 feet deep from the house to the property line?
Currently, today, it is not.
No. What you're proposing?
Oh, yes, sir, it is 10 feet.
We're talking about what you're building,
Oh,
not...
I'm sorry, I got confused.
What's there is coming down, it's going.
That's a good point.
So, Mike, it is 10 feet.
Yes, sir, it is 10 feet.
Right.
The way it's designed to be built, yes,
Okay,
sir.
so why does it have to be 10 feet?
Because it was existing to the zero property line, and we built it that way just for space. We have a
Yeah, but
six...
you're tearing the whole house down, and, when you do that, you have to try to comply to some of the new
Sure,
setbacks.
I'll take any suggestion. I'm not saying, hey, we have to have it,
Right, I mean,
I'm asking.
I don't see, my suggestion would be to shrink the rear deck.
How far would you like to see it, sir?
I would say make it a 6-foot deck. Yeah. Right.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
You are?
Can we negotiate to 8? No, I'm just kidding. That's fine.
Okay, so, anything else?
What happens to the building next door, the Seven Sisters, the stairways that are there, that 3-foot walkway? That just becomes all yours, right? There's no staircase that goes from Seven Sisters into his property, is that correct?
Currently, today, they are, but once the Seven Sisters come down, it will not. And the reason why they're there, they'll tell you that the person that built onto my property wasn't supposed to. They just did it one day when I wasn't there.
All right, okay.
Have you done your best to maximize the landscaping?
I've done my best. So if you look at the current landscaping, the other thing that we were thinking about, although obviously we have the driveway going forward, we were thinking about putting the brick in that has the grass growing in the middle. My mother-in-law is a fanatic about grass, and she wants bushes and everything of that great nature, so we're trying our best to maximize the area that we have. And actually, we've increased it significantly, so I think it'll work well.
Here's the property line right there.
Right, okay.
This is grass.
Anybody else from the board? Okay, we're going to open it up to the public.
Janet Markowitz. Markowitz. Now I'm at 9711 Ventnor Avenue, but my former address was the Seven Sisters, which was destroyed. Absolutely. The reason that the reason that I'm here is to support Jeff. First of all, he's a great neighbor, and he wants to make maximum use of his property. That being said, it's also a little self-serving that I'm here because we want to rebuild our property. I don't know that we're going to go to 7 units, but we do, in fact, we are working on plans to rebuild. We do have an issue with one of our former owners where the bank did, in fact, foreclose on him. So we're trying to make arrangements with the bank to take over that property. But what we would like is to come to you, hopefully in the not-too-distant future, so that we can make maximum use of our property as well. Again, we support Jeff and his family. They are great neighbors. And, who knew that we were going to have something so catastrophic is that he was going to lose his property and we were going to lose ours. In addition, I am a full-time owner. I'm not a summer renter or anything. I bought the property in 1986, initially as a summer rental just to get away, but then I started a business. So I have been full-time living here since 1988 in that unit. So again, I do support him, and we're hoping to be back to you shortly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public?
James Rogers. It's 9705 Winchester, right next door to Jeff and Kristen. Absolutely. I'm here on behalf of Charles and Carol Ornella, the next door neighbors to Jeff. He couldn't be here, but he did send some emails and letters to Mr. Rubin. I'm just here verbally to speak on his behalf to say he fully approves of everything Jeff and Kristen are about to do and embark on, given the nature of the storm and everything that's presented themselves with this particular project and the size of it. So that's what we have to do. Thank you.
Hello?
Could you use the microphone?
Use the mic? I'm here on behalf of myself and my family. We live across the street from Jeff. It's a very small lot and a very small house. We like Jeff. He put a lot of work into the house, a lot of time, a lot of money to bring it to where it is today. Unfortunately, it was hit where it was about to be finished by Sandy. We are okay with what he wants to do. We've seen the pictures, we've seen the plans, and we think it'll beautify the block. And yeah, we're all for it. Thank you, guys.
I'd really like it to happen, so if there's anything else. Oh, no, I'm just...
Still in the public portion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Anybody else from the public? Okay, public portion is closed. Roger?
Sorry. The conditions that I have are, thank you, that helps. We're sharing glasses. To reduce the rear first floor deck to a 6-foot depth out from the house, so it ends up being 4 feet from the rear property line. Slight technicality, the air conditioners on the roof have to be moved over about 9 inches so they're a full 5 feet from the property line. It's a minor matter. And a notation, I think on the plans, a notation that the flat area of the roof is not to be used for a deck, but only for maintenance. And I don't know if anybody else has anything else, any other suggestions. That's all I got.
Do you have anything to add before I instruct the board on the vote, before we do
No,
that?
sir, just thank you for your time.
Okay, I appreciate
Thank you.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
I'm going to, rather than read all the requirements, I'm going to just incorporate by reference Mr. Rubin's report with just some slight amendments. I believe that there's only really one amendment for the rear yard setback to the first floor deck. Originally, it was 0 feet. The applicant has agreed to amend that to the setback of 4 feet. But I read there's 17 C variances for this, as listed on the report, because of the number of different variances for each floor that are requested. So it would be a motion in the affirmative to approve the variances as listed and as amended by myself on the report, with the conditions as enunciated by Mr. Rubin.
I'll make a motion that we approve the application with the amendments as stated by Roger and our solicitor Stan.
I'll second.
It's a very, very difficult case, especially because of the size of the lot. If you had the 125-foot lot, which is normal with a 25-foot wide, this would be pretty easy to do. I feel for you. I've seen the house, I've seen the flood damage. Considering the fact that you are going to upgrade the neighborhood, you are going to upgrade the property, you're going to clean it up, I think you could have redesigned it a little bit better, but you did make a concession on the deck. I think the negative impacts are de minimis in this case, and the positives was far outweigh the negatives, so I'll vote in favor of it.
Well, I appreciate all the difficulties as well as Tom does on the small lot. And I could go along with all the variances on that basis except the side yards. The left one going down to 2'6" on the upper floor, and the right one going down to 1 foot off the property line. And actually, if you take it to the edge of the roof overhang, it's right on the property line. And just because of those two items, I have to vote no.
Brenda Talby?
I know what the family needs, but in my opinion, the lot isn't big enough. I think the applicant is requesting a lot of variances, and though the proposed new home is much more attractive, I'm concerned, I'm very concerned in Margate about overbuilding and drainage. I'm sorry, I vote no.
I understand the hardship of the family and the lot size. It is the overall mass is a lot to ask. There are 17 variances, but I feel for the family. I understand the neighbors are in favor of this, and you make a good neighbor. I guess with reducing the rear deck, I have the same concerns as Clem, but I can't go and redesign the house. Based upon the hardship and aesthetically, the improvement to the neighborhood and the neighbors, I vote yes.
Brad Polisano?
It's got to be the smallest lot on the island. The neighbors are okay with the property. There are also some small houses, 2 doors down, 3 doors down, that are very, very similar to that, narrow and tall. I feel for the owners. I'm going to vote yes for this.
David Carter.
This is a very tough one. The neighbors have spoken, and it's really good. It'd be nice if we could see what was going to happen as far as the Seven Sisters building is concerned. But the fact that the neighbors are in agreement, I vote yes.
I agree, it is a tough case. I would definitely like to see like a grass strip like you were talking about in the driveway, add some greenery, some landscaping, but based on the hardships, I approve.
Echoing the hardship involved here, I really agree with Clem a lot, though, on the side setbacks. They're really just minimal, and there's got to be a different way to redesign the house to affect those setbacks. However, again, with the neighbors all in favor of seeing this happen, I think it's our duty to grant this because of the difficult situation involved with the family. So I say vote yes.
I think there's a lot of variances involved. Normally, I would not approve an application like this, but it is in the multifamily district, which I think makes a difference. Also, it is an extremely small lot, and I don't know what else you would do with it except make it a basketball court or something. So I'm going to vote yes.
Motion passes 7-2. Jeff, will you please sign?
Break. Yeah, okay.
Normally, that doesn't work out.
We're just going to take a short 5-minute break.
I am recusing myself on this case.
The dentist office?
What I do, there's somebody else. Okay?
And for that reason, you can't be objective.
I can't be objective.
Because you're afraid of losing somebody else. That's what.
If he hadn't made at least one concession in some of those variances, I feel like I'm going to move the stairs. If you look at the space, you could have flipped it. You got too long. That's all right. I feel for him because yeah.
I thought you would have respect. No, they're good. I thought you would have respect because you did what you did. Designed that house, got it drawn up. Person about his house. It's a much more complicated situation.
I would have not had seven variances. I would have said, okay.
You could have got it to less than 14.
I would have got it down to 14.
Yeah.
I would have. Yeah. And then, I would say, I started with 20 and down to 14.
But then 2 units have no variance.
And the blue part, I had no problem. It is. That part, it's parapet, and from the street, you don't see it, and it's going to be cold.
How are you going to service the same house? You can't put ladders up, there's no room. You got 1 foot. This is the kind of guy who is. Oh, really?
So what kind of building? It's on one side. And you only do 2/3 of the land.
Do you still think that you're over
So they don't have to jeopardy or whatever to take the structures that make sense. I think the same thing does. Find a way to make this to get more cars in.
Technology or the law?
It looks like a hardship. What are you going to do with that? He has to sell it off to somebody else because it's such a one. And that's really a hardship because he's probably losing. And that's not right. I wouldn't have gone with it now. I hate the fact that that roof line came right to the edge, too. This one, it looks really nice. That's over there. Parking's already a mess. The old dentist offices by the church. They didn't want to. Yeah, that whole block there. That's it's a single run of stairs.
I wasn't actually trying to get it.
But the stairs also
That's one of them.
Move the scissors stick to the back.
What do you have on the plan? No. You can flip every floor.
Is that the link here last month? Is that you? Okay. Because I didn't have your name on it, and I just guessed because you had yours, you had one before it, and one after it. I said, they wouldn't be. I remember that one, yeah.
You heard of it. Okay. Why not? Did you get my message?
Oh, about saying.
Oh, that's wrong. She went on with that. But the Republican, that's what I'm like.
You can, I mean, think about doing that. And I told Roger, I've been in so many cases where the boards have been first, people like it. So he can say whatever he wants, but the value of the litigation is, it doesn't work that way. And I know that from first, I'm not just,
Yeah, I know.
firsthand experience. Dozens of debates. You can do the discussion. The best record.
Well, the first one I had to
Oh, hi, Steve, Brenda. Oh, I remember that. I remember Brenda. Well, Terry Pelzer, that's me. Okay, ready? Because we're early. Thank you for coming.
Maybe, no, on the break.
Roll off cars.
Allergies already?
Everybody ready?
Thank you. I have a nose thing.
Sinus.
Okay, Tom Collins is going to recuse himself from this case. Our next case is 8500 Ventnor Avenue LLC, 8500 Ventnor Avenue, Block 113.01, Lot 6.01 in the C1 District, to grant site plan for addition of apartments on a commercial premises and C variances. Taxes are current and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied.
You sure?
Roger Rubin? Yes, I do. Subject property is a one-story medical dental office building on a lot of 27.4 feet by 80 feet, which is 2,192 square feet. Part of an attached row of stores, which includes a real estate office, workout studio, health food store, and offices for a pet supply company. The existing office, per the survey and plans by architect Christina Buendicho, takes up the entire site, with the exception of the rear alley, which runs behind all the stores from Kenyon to Lancaster Avenues, and which is 27.4 feet wide by 15.05 feet deep behind the subject property. The proposal, per the plan submitted, is to add a two-bedroom apartment on the roof and otherwise to completely redesign the exterior to include a front raised planter, columns on Ventnor Avenue, and new windows and finishes. The proposed residence would be accessed via a stairway in the rear alley, and a parking space is proposed on that alley space within the 11 feet in width left over after the stairway goes in. The residence would have a 10-foot deep by the width of the building deck in the rear and a 5.5 feet deep front deck facing Ventnor Avenue, which allows for an attractive parapet design from that street. Site plan action required. The board may consider site plan matters such as pedestrian and vehicular safety and sidewalk finishes, landscaping, etc. Variance is required. Front setback for the apartment along Kenyon Avenue, and even though that's a side in zoning terminology, that counts as a building front. Per the 200-foot survey, the required setback is 9 feet 2 inches. The proposed second-floor apartment will be built at 0 feet setback on top of the first-floor wall. The board should consider building mass insofar as surrounding properties and any possible obstruction of light, air, or views. Side setback on the right to the real estate office. That is the apartment on the roof, its side setback to the property line of the real estate office, projected up into the air. 3 feet is required versus 0 feet for the apartment above to coincide with its wall with the party wall below. Same considerations as above. Front setback for decks on Kenyon Avenue. The Kenyon Avenue edge of the front and rear decks must meet the setback of 6 feet 9 inches versus 0 feet as proposed. Questions of noise and privacy with regard to neighbors are germane to this variance. Setback for decks also to the real estate office, 3 feet is required on that side versus 0 feet as planned. Comments. There is no coverage variance. The new rear steps proposed do not count as coverage, so the existing 83% coverage does not change, and even though it exceeds the 60% permitted, it is not a variance. Total height is 32 feet lower than the 34 feet permitted, and there is a pitched roof, so most of the building mass is about 25 feet high. The board may also consider aesthetic upgrades in its deliberations. 2, the parking space provided is sufficient for a 2-bedroom apartment, so there's no parking variance. As part of its site plan consideration, the board should deal with the car backing out onto the street at this location, how the car space will impact trash storage and disposal, and the rear fence in terms of sight lines on backing out. Also, the board should deliberate upon the submitted letter from other store owners giving the applicant permission to use his rear alley area for parking. It is unclear as to whether there is a cross easement across the alley benefiting all store owners or not, and perhaps the board will receive clarification on this point. I read the deed and there was no cross easement in the deed. The board may also want clarification as to how the other stores can work around a parked car in terms of access, trash removal, etc. 3, before approving this case, the board should be crystal clear on whether the second floor addition or the first floor architectural enhancements, such as the columns, encroach on the public right-of-way and to what extent. If approved, the board should condition the approval on a license agreement with the city, if that is needed, before any building permits could be issued. And finally, the board may wish to require street trees to be planted, especially on Kenyon Avenue, if approved, to soften the impact of the mass increase. No additional conditions are suggested at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Rubin. Members of the board, my name is Chris Balance, and I represent 8500 Ventnor Avenue, LLC. Its principal, Dr. Joseph Baritone, who is here this evening with respect to the application before you to the planning board seeking front yard setback variances only in order to construct a new apartment above the existing professional office that is at the corner of Kenyon Avenue and Ventnor Avenue. Many of you know the property. It's located in the C1 zone, where our master plan actually encourages commercial uses at grade with residential above. In fact, the apartments are not otherwise permitted without having commercial at grade. So we have to start from the premise that this is a permitted use. I am not asking to add an apartment where one is not permitted. This is a permitted and by our master plan encouraged type of building development in our commercial zones, particularly those zones that front Ventnor Avenue. We see this type of development proliferate from the whole Washington Avenue intersection down toward Longport, as well as across from Castles and the Granville Avenue area. This is just merely an extension of that. In fact, the building that we're speaking of, those offices running from Kenyon to Lancaster, have 2 other apartments above them currently. It just so happens for Dr. Baritone that the building he purchased from Dr. Milstein does not have an apartment. He now wishes to construct a small apartment for himself consisting of only bedrooms. The issue with that plan of development always has been the alleyway to the rear, which benefits all of those store owners. I have submitted to you, those stores are now owned solely by Dr. Pasteur and by DJ Gluck, and those 2 store owners have in fact consented and permitted to allow Dr. Baritone to park the 1 car that is required for a 2-bedroom apartment in that alleyway. There is currently a curb cut there already, so no change takes place with respect to the access to that. And to address Roger's point, that alley situation backing out onto Kenyon Avenue is really no different than any other driveway along Kenyon Avenue, or for that matter, any other driveway in town, where you pull into your driveway, nose first, and back out the same way. You back out onto your side street. That's the most typical condition that we have with respect to off-street parking in the city of Margate. With that having been said, as I noted, the only variances that are necessary with this application are is a front yard setback variance on Kenyon, a front yard setback variance on Ventnor Avenue, and a side setback, so to speak, up in the air on the Longport side of the building, but there's really nothing there to talk about any impacts to that side, so to speak. The setback variances are necessitated solely as a result of the existing building being built on the line, which we see is a common building practice in Margate with our commercial zones. In fact, if this property were to be in the CBD zone, which is the more standard business zone, such as we find at Castles or at the Sikanos development, where Starbucks is, or down toward Johnny's and those buildings, the CBD zone does not require any setbacks for this type of building. This application would merely be a request for a site plan approval without setbacks had this been the CBD zone. For whatever reason, it's the C1 zone, and the setback requirement does in fact kick in, and that is why we are here. Otherwise, the building complies in all respects to all other aspects of zoning. Height falls well within what's permitted. As Roger points out, there's no additional coverage. We would seek a license agreement for some of the architectural treatments that are going to encroach into the right-of-way because the building is built on the line. But I think the benefit to that simply is that the building is going to look a whole lot nicer than that brown stucco building that you see there now. It's going to really kind of bring it into the residential characteristic that you have up and down Kenyon Avenue. With all that having been said, let me introduce Christina Buondicio. She's the architect. I'd like her to go through the plan with you because I think what you're going to see is we're not just popping a box on top of a box. It's going to be a complete overhaul both along Kenyon Avenue and along Ventnor Avenue to give this a nice, real residential feel, something that's that corner because it is a nice neighborhood and a well-developed neighborhood. After the last 5 years or so, you have about 5 or 8 new houses up Kenyon Avenue, beautiful houses that we can actually kind of blend this in with this plan. Christina, you need to be sworn.
Cristina Buendicho, B-U-E-N-D.
I'll speak. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Architect in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I am.
And you prepared the plan for Dr. Baritone? To the existing conditions and then what it is you have designed.
The existing conditions is a one-story dental office that takes almost all the lot, like Roger said, except the alley, a 15-foot for the alley. It's a one-story dental office, the entrance at the front. The building is from the 70s, doesn't have any character, doesn't help the neighborhood. It's just one pebble stone, flat roof. The intention, okay. To keep the existing office almost intact, the floor plan, the entrance will be here, and having a second floor occupying from side to side, having a deck on the first floor at the front and at the rear, with the entrance from the rear. And the parking will be in the alley, so we will enter from the rear. And also, because of fire, we will enter also at the front like a lobby with another second means of egress. It's a 2-bedroom apartment. The master bedroom at the front with this kind of turret. It's a very decorative element blending with the housing on Kenyon Avenue, especially attention to one of the houses at the back of Kenyon. It has the same motif as a turret. So we have the master bedroom, another bedroom with a bath, and overlooking the south is the grand room with a deck. This is the front of the building, and this is what you will see, because this is the parapet blending with the neighbor real estate. And we also took into consideration the fabric awning from the neighbor. It's a beautiful building, very strong colors, very attractive. And we try to blend with the neighbor in the sense of making decorative columns, the stone wainscoting that also has the adjacent buildings, different color but the same motif, blending at the corner, and a parapet. In the case of the neighbor, it's a straight parapet, and in here it's like a curve with the sign for the doctor.
So, Christina, at least with respect to the front of the building,
that is correct.
what you've tried to do with this design, and we'll see it on the rendered.
That's the purpose, to blend together and enhance the streetscape of the commercial area.
And then with respect to the residential elements above, what have you done?
That relates mostly on the elevation on Kenyon Avenue. Kenyon Avenue has so beautiful homes. One of the homes across the street, we designed that house, and we are very proud of that. And we are creating a residential look, trim around the windows, heavy trim around the windows. This turret, we call turret, at the corner, trying to soften the condition that we now have with a very flat building. We have a gable roof, decorative elements, curb, different kind of siding. So we have a wainscoting with stone, stucco, and clapboard siding with heavy trim around the windows. And at the front we have cedar impressions also.
So what you've done, at least in the front, you've broken
a more residential character. That's what we're trying to aim in here, to blend. In this side of Kenyon, we blend with the residential neighborhood. On Vendor Avenue is more commercial, and we blend with the neighbors.
Now, with respect to access, you have the
That is correct. This is the stair from the rear going to the rear deck.
Okay, and those stairs lowered for fire purposes out onto the street.
That is correct. As for fire, it goes directly to the sidewalk.
And what we have discussed earlier is this provides a great opportunity, watch Mr. Patterson right behind
I'm
you.
sorry.
This provides a great, actually wall the opening here below the stairs off, Christina. That's obviously something, Mr. Bergman, we would agree to do, would be to wall the underneath of the stairs to make that a trash and recycle. Christina, with respect to
Yes, hold on. Give me my papers. Front yard setbacks from Canyon because the second floor will align with the first floor in the retail. And we are proposing a 0 setbacks on Canyon, and the required is 9 foot 2 inches. But the reason for that is because structurally we need to go to the same wall as the retail. The other setback is on the property line. We have 0 because it's a party wall, and 3 feet is required. Third variance is because of the front setback for the decks on Canyon, where 0 is proposed and 6 foot 9 is required. And the fourth and last setback is for decks on the party wall, where 3 is required and we have 0.
And when you see on the party wall, and the reason the deck variances are implicated is because the deck carries around the front of the building, and there's no decks there now.
That's right.
So we're not taking up the building mass.
The rear deck is 10 feet.
So what you've
I'm
done-
sorry, 15 feet. The rear deck will be 15 feet from the property line.
And how deep is the deck itself?
10 feet.
Okay, so what you've done, in consideration of the neighbors up.
That's correct, by 10 feet.
And the same thing with respect to Ventnor Avenue.
That is correct. Yes.
Now, with respect to, will you show the rendered elevation?
In the Canyon Avenue, we have the turret with decorative trim, a metal roofing, a gold color. It's mostly similar to a house across the street. That's what we had the inspiration, talking to the doctor. That's the house. Very nice, yes. So this is our inspiration for this building. And with the same color similar color for the metal roofing. Asphalt roof shingles, gables, so the building doesn't look that massive because you have the angle. Wainscoting, stone wainscoting, a very tan color for the stucco, decorative trim, and siding, clapboard in this case, and at the front we have gable cedar impression, and also the rear will be cedar impression. And we have very decorative trim around the windows and a separation trim between the stucco and the siding.
Now, Christina, what Roger had mentioned in his report is that
Those elements, the depth varies. For instance, at the front, we have columns, pilasters, and that will be about 9 inches. And some of the trim might be 6 inches. It varies, but in general, it will be 9 inches. And we also will require an extension beyond the building because of the roof overhangs.
The roof even after that gives you the ability to have a gutter. If now it's flat.
It's a flat roof, and because we want the eave projection similar to the residence across Kenyon, we want to create a shadow, and we need an extension over the building line.
That's about 9 inches as well.
No, that will be a foot. Normally you have a foot plus your gutter, so that will be 18 inches or so.
Okay, so with respect to the eave on Kenyon Avenue, that's approximately,
yes,
for your architectural elements, otherwise,
9 inches. From the building line. From the building wall, it will be 9 inches.
That's all I have.
My name is Joseph Baratone. I do.
Dr. Baratone, if you would, I'm not going to ask you a lot of questions. I want you to tell.
Okay. Good evening, board. Good evening, neighbors. My name is Joe Baratone, and I purchased Dr. Milstein's dental practice approximately 4.5 years ago. At that time, the dental office needed, the inside needed a lot of work for me to make it attractive to, do what I do for a living. And I concentrated on that, and I'm very, very proud of what I did inside. And I don't know if any of my neighbors have actually been inside, but I really did a lot to improve the inside. With that being said, now I'm looking to enhance the outside. In addition to enhancing the outside, I live in Philadelphia, so I work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The commute sometimes is a lot. It would be nice that if I did want to stay over one night and not have to drive back to Philadelphia, or on the weekends, maybe opening a half a day on a Saturday, that I could stay down here and be around. I understand the concerns of the neighbors with aesthetics, absolutely, and that's what I'm trying to do, is to try to improve the aesthetics and have it blend with the street. I mean, we have a lot of beautiful houses that were put up recently, and I'm only trying to do the same.
So, Joe, your practice, you're here 3 days a week.
Correct.
And the idea now is for this.
Correct.
If we have a snowstorm like we had, and you're stuck down here,
It would be nice, yes.
or if you were just having to work late, you could stay. But right now,
That is correct, and I can understand if that's a concern of the neighbors as well. I would be concerned as who's going to be living here and what kind of people are going to be in there. But it is for myself and my wife.
and you have worked out with DJ next door.
That is correct.
That's Joe.
Yes.
And you'd like to see it continue in that regard?
Absolutely.
And you will be here not only in the summertime, but if you're allowed.
Correct.
Thank you, Dr. Baratone.
Thank you.
Mr. Rich, members of the board, that's all the direct testimony that I have. That's board discussion. And we're
I have a question for Christina. The party wall between Dr. Baratone's office and the real estate office, is that a block wall?
It's a block wall, yes.
Yeah, so I would assume that structurally speaking, going wall to wall is going to make a big difference rather than
Yes.
trying to implement beams to carry that load.
During the design phase, Christina has been consulting with Butch Zart the whole time, and Butch has recommended, in light of the type of construction, that it be a wall-to-wall upstairs apartment. Yes.
We did a feasibility study, and we have a small report, just a conceptual feasibility, and we have to go wall to wall because of the
Right.
roof.
Okay.
Question, you have the windows downstairs on the front of the building, are they remaining? The windows that are there now on the angles, they're remaining? And then the planters would be added in front of those windows?
These are planters, yes, but the windows may remain. They are not in bad condition, but because of the columns, it will look different.
So those windows are still on angles?
No, the windows are parallel to the street. What is on angle is the stucco.
Okay.
Not Chris, not you. The stormwater. Are you going to be draining any of it onto the real estate office next door? Or am I seeing a reverse A here?
No, we are very concerned about giving the water to the neighbor, that we should not do that. So that's why we have that roof like that, shedding the water to front and back.
Okay. Now, how about the water coming off onto the Kenyon Avenue side?
We will have a gutter and then downspouts.
Can you take it, you're going to take it under the sidewalk and out to the curb?
Good point.
So that, otherwise you're going to be dumping a lot of water. right?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, we will have to do
I think that should be a
that.
condition.
That's all I have, Mike.
Anybody else from the board? Okay, anybody from the public like to speak?
Yes, Anthony Canuso, C-A-N-U-S-O, 5 South Kenyon Avenue, Margate, New Jersey. Yes, I do. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to start first off by reading a letter from a neighbor from across the street from us. We're at 5 South, they're at 4 South, self-explanatory, March 27th.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bourbon, I object to the introduction of the letter being read into the record by Mr. Canuso.
Because
If that neighbor wants to speak, that neighbor, unfortunately.
Sir, because there's an objection to it, I'm going to have to be the arbiter of that. I'm going to have to sustain it because you can't bring a letter from someone else. They have to be here live to testify unless there's a consent of the applicant. Okay?
Understood. Unfortunately, these folks are in
So,
California, and they
Yeah,
just...
we're sorry
couldn't be
about that, but we have to go by the rules of evidence. somewhat.
Absolutely, absolutely. In that regard, then I would like to speak on my behalf as a neighbor at 5 South Kenyon Avenue. I understand the variances that are being looked for tonight have initially been glanced over as nothing major, nothing, just incidental things. However, in my opinion, in my looking at the plans, to me, they are significant and substantial deviations and changes to our neighborhood, to the character of our neighborhood, and to, basically what has been there for the 50 years plus that I've been on that block. The issues that I'd like to bring up are, number one, the size and the mass of the building that's going to be put on the second floor there. It will definitely impact myself. My neighbor is here also on the corner property. It will impact the sunshine that we get in the afternoon, the height of that building that we enjoy now. It will also affect the airflow, the breezes, things that we get coming from that side of the street. There's no question about it. I've even noticed it this afternoon and this evening when I was sitting there just to get an idea of what it would be like, and I could see the effect that it's going to have on us. The other issue that I have is the public safety. Behind that building, there is an easement, a driveway, that for 50-some years has remained open, and it's remained open, I believe, and I'm sure of, because of the concern for safety, so that in the event there is a fire in the middle of that block or in those stores, that a fire engine can get through there or an ambulance can get through there. And I understand from tonight's testimony that the neighbors have gotten together and sort of agreed to waive that. But number one, I don't know if they have the authority to waive something that's in the public interest like that. To me, that seems to be against public policy, that after all of this time, and as good and effective as that has been to keep it safe, now all of a sudden it can be just waived with the stroke of a pen. I don't believe that's in public policy to do that. As far as the building mass, was brought up that for the benefit of the neighbors, the living quarters were going to be moved back, and that the deck space on the rear of the property would be larger so that the house was moved, or the living quarters were moved back. However, all that does is make a bigger deck for entertaining outside at nighttime, for parties possibly, and believe me, I know the doctor, I've met him, he's a gentleman, he's a good man, there's no problem there, this is nothing personal. But I could just see these things developing over time. The reference was made to the other apartments that are down on that block. There's 2 other apartments a little further down. They have not been the best thing for our block. Living there, I know during the middle of the night, the tenants that are there pull into that driveway, have double parked there, have had arguments, things like that. You can't control all of that, but it's there and it's happened. And again, I can appreciate the doctor saying he wants it for himself, but as was brought up in an earlier hearing tonight, we can't predict the future. We don't know what may happen in a year or 2. Maybe the doctor would like to sell the place, and he can move on, but us neighbors, we're there. We've been on that block a long time. We intend to stay there, and then we're stuck with whoever then comes in. The other issue is the parking. And again, getting back to the idea that with a stroke of a pen, that could be remedied, but it can't be. That block, South Kenyon Avenue, is probably the busiest block, other than other commercial blocks around Castles, in the city. We have traffic come down that street, actually on the sign on Atlantic Avenue, directs traffic to the Margate Bridge. If you're coming from Longport, come down Kenyon Avenue. We have the real estate office there. And it's really no longer, I think it's a misnomer to call it a commercial area. It's really a professional area in that these offices that we have there, these real estate offices and the doctor's office, it's not like the old days when we had Bowen's store, we had Portner's Bakery, somebody pulls in, grabs a donut, grabs a cake, grabs a newspaper and leaves. Now these people park there all day long. And there's how many realtors that are in the Soleil office? At least 20 some are listed on their website. And the doctor as well, he's there. He's got an assistant. He's got a hygienist. And his patients park, and they're not there for 5 minutes. You know what a dental office can be, how long you may have to wait. And now this evening, the doctor even conceded that on Saturdays, the busiest days, he may have office hours half a day Saturday or whatever. It's going to be even more of a parking problem on our street. If you come down Kenyon Avenue, if you've driven by, even in the wintertime, it's jammed from the corner, practically more than halfway back the block, just from the people from the real estate office and the dental office. Those of us that are residents have nowhere to park. And to say that it's a good idea to have that as a commercial area, it really is not. It really is not. And it's going to put a strain on our street. It's going to put a strain on our neighbors. In the summertime, we all have to park, although we're required to have 2 parking spots for our homes in our driveways. We can't even park in front of our house. It really is gotten out of hand. And the idea that it's going to be good for our neighborhood is not going to be good for our neighborhood. It's really a misnomer. So I would ask you to really consider this. Again, the project is beautiful. There's no question about it. And Ms. Buendico testified that she designed a house on that street. She designed my house on that street. And she's right. It is a beautiful project, but it just doesn't belong on the corner of Kenyon and Ventnor Avenue. It's too big. It's not necessary there. It's been that type of a commercial zone for, as I said, over 50 years, and it's done very well. This is not going to be good for our neighborhood, and I'd ask you to seriously consider it and to please deny this application. Thank you.
Kirsten Canuso, Kirsten, 5 South Kenyon Avenue.
Neighbors on the last one, are you listening to Joe on this one?
Obviously, Mr. Canuso is my husband. He's lived there for 50 years with his family. We've been there for 17 years as husband and wife. Lived exactly how the building was, and like he said, the doctor is a very, very nice man, a gentleman. He has started to make improvements on the back of the building, started to clean up the alley around his property, which is nice. But for the last 17 years, I've also lived on that block. I sit on my front porch, I look at it, I'm absolutely fine with it. I want to feel the sun on my face. And I'm afraid when you put that building up, it's going to change. And if you ever go down Kenyon, we are probably the smallest street with parking on both sides. Lancaster Avenue has parking on one side, and it's a one-way street. We're a one-way street with both sides. Right now, they will park to the beginning of my driveway where it ends, up and behind. I can't get out of my own driveway. And now, while he says it's his own apartment, we're going to add more density to Kenyon Avenue. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Deborah Stone. Okay, 11 South Kenyon. Yes. My husband grew up in Margate, born and raised. My father-in-law lived there for 65 years. We recently came to the board and secured some variances, and we built a beautiful home in addition to 4 other homes on Kenyon. I share the same sentiments as Kirsten and Anton. I hope that you will seriously consider everything they said, but if you all do decide to give Dr. Baritone, which I don't know, a variance, those variances, I would request, first of all, the property is poorly maintained. The back alleyway, the concrete is all in disrepair. The garbage cans are very visible, which Chris said he would enclose. The sidewalk on the side yard variance is all in disrepair. The curb is in disrepair. That gentleman over there, I don't know your name, Clement, he brought up a point about how you're going to drain the back of the house. I don't know if you realize, though, that when it rains or there's a storm or anything, the whole end of South Kenyon at Ventnor floods. So now, not only are we going to have an issue with just general we deal with, and my father-in-law's car got destroyed over the years, now we're going to have a second-story structure with drainage draining right into the major puddle that we deal with all the time. I think the town is going to address that at some point, but it's a problem. So one of the other concerns I have is the stairwell. I mean, I grew up in an inner city environment. The stairwell dumps directly onto South Kenyon. I would request that the board consider reversing the stairwell so we don't have to look at it. So we don't have to look at the stairwell if you do consider this variance. Trash built in, pave the back lot in addition to this curb area, and new curbing. Trees, mature trees, not mature trees, like real mature trees be planted here, in addition to a grassy area and irrigation. That's all I have to say. I would hope you would consider all those changes. Oh, I'm sorry. The other thing is add shutters. One of the things they claimed that they wanted to make this residential. It is very pretty, but I think if they add some shutters to here and make this a raised panel door, it would look even more residential and blend with South Kenyon. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Yes.
So, what's the bottom line?
The bottom line is, all I have to say is, I share the same sentiments as they do, okay? You are all going to make a decision here. And if you do make this decision, I would hope that if you do all approve it, I would hope that you would take all the points that I just made and have them implement that as conditions for approval.
Sy, S-Y, Benenfeld, B-E-N-E-N-F-E-L-D. 8410 Ventnor Avenue, Margate City. I do. Okay. The reason I'm here is I live directly across the street from the property that they're speaking about. And all the people here, by the way, live the closest, the first 5 houses to that building. So we all hear an objection to the apartment going up. My objection, and I do know Mr. Baritone well, and he is a gentleman. My objection is, living across the street, I have lived with the parking situation there and the flooding for only 5 years, but I've seen what it's like on our block. Directly across the street, especially with the realty company, they not only park in their driveway, they park in my driveway. Their cars are always on the street. We have to navigate our cars around to park in our own parking spaces, and it's impossible, even when I'm in my driveway, to back up if there's a car in their driveway. So the objection is mainly the parking situation there. It will become worse. The realty company has made it worse. So from my understanding, every person that I've spoken to is against the building, and that's all I have to say about that. Any questions?
So your main concern with the project is that it's going to increase the parking?
Well, in listening to Dr. Baritone, he'll be here on Saturday. The parking situation is terrible now with that driveway. People that visit that building, that visit the realty company, that go into his office, often park right at the edge of the driveway, or they block my driveway. They actually park in my driveway or they block it. So I can't even at times get in there. I have to go in and find out whose car it is to move my car. So it's impossible to park there. The idea that the building was maintained is not the case, because for the last 2 years, there has been dumpsters in there, there's been grass that's been growing in there. It hasn't been maintained. I'm not sure why, but I know they've spoken to Dr. Baritone about that, but it's never been really, up until now, maintained. So I don't know the reason why now all of a sudden we buy into the fact it's going to be beautiful, it's going to help the area, and it's going to become residential. That really isn't the case.
Okay, so you realize the dentist office is still going to be there, and
Yes.
the real estate office, and it is a commercial area.
Right.
So, because this comes up a lot, all commercial businesses, I mean, if we worried about parking, there want to be a Starbucks or want to be, you follow what I'm saying?
I do.
There's always
I do.
going to be a parking issue, and is that your only objection? Is that your only objection? You don't have any objections?
Well, I don't believe that every person here who has not expressed their opinion, they can believe that this is going to maintain it and make it appearance of a commercial, as a residential area. There's been a great many expensive homes. I myself had renovated the home, the one across the street. So there are 5 people, I think, within the first few houses of this building have built a home or renovated it. No one believes that it's going to look like a commercial residential area any longer when they raise that building and they put an apartment in there. And I think I've heard everyone speak about what the future will be, who will live there, how many additional cars will be. I heard about the drainage. I think our street, my corner, is the worst, I think, in the area. I can't pull my car out when it rains. So I just think it compounds the problem in our area, and I don't think it benefits our block. I don't see the benefit of a block because you're putting in a pretty facade. You're coming out into Kenyon, again, onto the street, and I think there are people here that live next door that can't even voice their opinion that would object to it as well. So isn't it important for the board to take in considerations what the neighbors feel? I know they had people here before, and I've listened to them say they were for that, and the board took that in consideration. At this point, there isn't one person that I've spoken to on our block that isn't against this apartment. Isn't that important to the board?
Yes, that's why you're up here speaking.
Yeah, I wish that wasn't the case, and I wish there was more reason I could say it would enhance our block, and it would beautify our block and make it look better. I just don't see any pros for anything that is being done other than it will look more attractive than it did before. Well, they could do that now. They could take that building and make it more attractive. They hadn't done it up until recently. In fact, I think that, again, from my understanding, they've been asked to do that by the Realtor, and I can understand why the Realtor wouldn't object to this. He would love to have the building look nicer. He has people coming in there, would enhance his business as well. But it doesn't help the residential people in that area, in no way.
Can I ask you, Mr. Benefeld?
Sure.
We spoke before, haven't we?
I think we have, yes.
I think you called me when you wanted to renovate your house right across the
Yes,
street.
we did.
And you wanted, in fact, what you wanted to do with that corner, that's so you wanted to enlarge your house, correct?
Yeah, I didn't want to enlarge the house. My house was vacant for 5 years, and I think that you know that. No one had lived there.
Did you renovate the home?
I did.
Did you add bedrooms? I'm sorry.
I feel like I'm being challenged by my house. I didn't come here to defend my house. I came here to speak about...
Excuse me,
Okay.
excuse me.
Yes.
We're going to have some order here. I know it's been a long night, but we can't shout out from the audience, number one, okay?
Okay, I do...
Sir, let me just finish, okay?
Sure.
When you decide to testify in public portion, you get sworn in, you're subject to cross-examination under the rules, so that's what Mr. Bailenson doing
Okay,
right now.
and I
So
don't
it's
object to that.
permitted, but if you don't know the answer, or if that's
Sure.
perfectly fine.
I recall you did call me, you wanted to either renovate or expand your home, and you did that, correct?
Yes, I did.
And when you purchased that home, you knew that you were right across the street from a commercial area. That wasn't a surprise to you.
Ironically, I didn't, okay?
Shortly thereafter, you realized that.
After I moved in, I did. I don't know Margate well. I've never really visited the area. It was because of my family wanting to come down here and rent a place, and something came up and they said that we have terrific house for you, and that's all I did. I looked at it. I didn't know what was across the street. I didn't know there was a church across the street. I know there was a synagogue across the street, and I'm very happy that I moved into the area, but I didn't really take that in consideration.
And now, you've been there for 5 years or so?
Yes.
And over the course of that 5 years, your block has changed fairly dramatically, has it not?
Definitely.
Yes? Yes. You know, a lot of that was a block of small bungalows and Cape Cods for the most part between Venter and Atlantic, correct?
Well, my definition, it wasn't small bungalows.
But a lot of those houses have been expanded to 2.5 stories, am I right?
Yes.
So the street obviously as a result of those types of expansions and the size of those houses increased, has in fact become somewhat more crowded, is that right?
I don't know. I couldn't.
That's all I have for you, Mr. Benefeld. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Chris, is the parking limited during the summer on Ventnor Avenue on both sides? Limited to 15-minute parking in that commercial district?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. And you may know that. Is there time limited parking?
Just one small portion in front of the synagogue.
One small portion in front of the synagogue only.
Can I get one more?
I know, yes.
Just speak a little louder, because,
Yeah, sorry. Okay,
Wait for the microphone.
No, you can speak
You
louder.
can speak.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Mike.
The only other objection I have, and my wife reminded me, is that our porch is opposite the building.
Right.
Sunshine and the height of the building also will.
Right.
Towards me.
Okay.
Plus
Thank you.
towards me. Positivity across to me. Yeah.
there anybody else from the public that would like to speak?
Rachel Cohen, 7 South Kenyon. Yes. Hi. We're at 7 South Kenyon, actually, that house that was shown. I guess Peter Weiss was a designer for that, so I wasn't sure who, that was that same architect. But we built about 2 years ago. We were the first new home recently. There was a few, but we came in, and since then we have like another 2 homes, and then a fourth one is now being built. So the whole street has really been transformed now. We were not bungalows. We were 2-story houses, but they were older, and they got knocked down, and we're beautifying the area. And this street is a really nice street with $1 million homes, with trees, grass, that is required to put in front, and we've really tried to make the street it's very residential. I never considered it very commercial, even though there was a commercial building on the corner. It kind of just stood out on its own, But we do have a church and a temple. We have a tremendous, I can tell you, I can't even back out of my house in the summer. It's really hard to get out of there because people park across all the driveways. It's just, people are just coming into all these places. It's not just, there's a residential office, all the places that we talked about, the real estate office. So, there are a lot of issues. One of the biggest issues is the flooding, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but then when I heard about the downspout coming onto the street, at this point, last summer, we were at the shore. It started raining. It was about a half an hour of rain, and it can rain pretty heavy in Margate, as you know. My husband's car, it was already over the tire. It was like coming up over the tires. If I had not seen and jumped out and moved that car, it would have been underwater. So we really do have an issue, and it's something that obviously is going to be dealt with, but it's something that has to be looked at when you're taking water out from a large building and having it come down there, because I don't think we could really support anymore without having serious consequences, with our situation. And most of us, obviously these are second homes. We come down and we love Margate and we want everything to be good. I'm not here to, make problems. I just wanted to voice what was happening. And, basically that area has not been really maintained, as everybody's been saying. It was almost one of the reasons why we didn't buy that house that was being built, because of the situation. We saw the trash and everything else. It just kind of wasn't they weren't keeping up with it. So I'm glad that he's saying that he is going to, I guess, beautify the area. He's trying to make it more residential. And I'm telling you my thoughts now. And if you all decide that you want to go ahead with this, and this is something that, you're voting on and you decide that you want to do this, I just had some things that I wanted to go over that were important to us. Some of the things that Debbie Stone had already mentioned. Obviously that staircase, I'm paying a lot of taxes. I'm looking, I built a beautiful home, and I don't want to be looking at a staircase like I'm in a city or something, Atlantic City. I want it to be more residential, and if they could turn that staircase around, that would be something that I think has to be done. Again, the low lighting, I think that absolutely, I think that they, just like we all had to put new sidewalks and new curbs and new trees and grass, I think that should be required. Right now there's 2 other homes that for some reason were given it out for having to put trees in, and not trees, to have to put grass. So there's pavement all down our street, and it looks very commercial like that. So they have to have grass, trees, and new curbs. I think that, and they're going to have to put in, I guess, have some way to maintain that. I like all the other things that she had mentioned, but my main concern is, again, the parking, the flooding. We're going to be blocked somewhat, not as bad as them, but in terms of the sunlight. But I just, I didn't want to go on here, but I wanted you to understand from our point of view that, we put a lot of money, this is a big commitment, financial commitment for us, and, we want to make sure that if something's put in there, that it's going to be done right, and it's also going to be maintained, which is hard for you to guarantee, but someone has to maintain and see what's going on with this parking. And hopefully you guys will look at the flooding situation as well. Maybe they can see what happens when it rains. So, did you have any questions or anything? Okay, thank you.
Stamp your name, please.
Cheryl Surkin. S-U-R-K-I-N.
Home address, please.
9 South Kenyon. I'm only just going to say that I am here in support of what my other neighbors have said, and due to the late hour, I don't want to waste any more of your time, but I really hope that you take into consideration everything that we said here. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Okay, the public portion is closed.
Mike, before you start discussion, can I just respond to a couple of comments?
Go ahead.
Some of the suggestions that have been made.
Right.
Is that okay?
Yep.
With respect to the stormwater, we are not building a new building on a grass field that's going to increase drainage. Drainage is not going to change. In fact, it may be better handled now with a newly designed second floor. And as Christina said, that stormwater will be run underneath the sidewalk to the streets like it is in every other house or development project that's built. So the mere fact that a second floor is going on the top of a building that is already there, I mean, we all know, having done this, that that's not going to change the amount of stormwater that's affected. In fact, it might be a little better now handled with the new project. Number two, there's been a lot of discussion about parking. This is a two-bedroom apartment with a parking demand for one car, which we are providing. I am not asking for a parking variance. I am not asking for a coverage variance. I am not asking for a height variance. I am not asking for a roof slope variance. I am simply asking for setback variances that are necessary as a result of the footprint of the existing building. That's all. That's all. I'm not asking for any further encroachments, but for the architectural features that hopefully will make this building nice. If the board were inclined to find that Dr. Baritone, a year-round businessman in this city, can build this apartment and enjoy it all year round, Dr. Baritone is more than happy, should the board think it's necessary, to put a grass strip along Kenyon Avenue with sprinklers, to put street trees along Kenyon Avenue, should the board want that, to enhance that residential feel, to put shutters on the windows along Kenyon Avenue, both on the first floor and the second floor, to give it a more residential feel. He is not here to jam a two-bedroom, 500-square-foot apartment down anybody's throat. He wants to work with the neighbors and show the neighbors that he does care about the property. He's been focusing on the inside for the last couple of years and now has opportunity to fix up the outside. I mean, it's an ugly frickin' building. It's going to look a whole lot better, and it's going to look a whole lot better for the neighborhood. I'm not saying the neighbors have to like it, but I'm not here asking for a use variance for a 30-seat restaurant. It's a permitted use. It's a two-bedroom apartment. It can't get any smaller. It's a permitted use in the C1 zone. I feel for those residents on Kenyon Avenue, but it's been a commercial zone for when I grew up, when I was a kid here. I mean, you guys remember, Arnie's was the restaurant in the corner. I don't know what it was before that, but when I was a kid, it was Arnie's. And you know, that's the way it's been. And there's no fire truck going in that back easement, and that easement has been obstructed for years since Steve Rubino had the law office on the corner, and whoever had the health food store, or has it, has also built an obstruction out into that easement. You can't even get a car through there, let alone a fire truck. I mean, the way Dr. Baritone has put a lot of thought into this and has not come before this board until he had the parking situation straightened out. It's a one-car demand. It is a permitted use. And I say that, and I want to work with the neighbors and make those enhancements that I just spoke of. I do not think it's a good idea to turn the stairs. I think because that would just then open up what is a trash enclosure, will be a trash enclosure and a recycle enclosure onto the street. I think it better that the stairs remain on the angle that they are, that the door for that enclosure be away from the street, and that the owner then be compelled to drag that stuff around the stairs and put it on the street. If the board thinks otherwise, tell me so. I mean, like I said, I'll agree to everything else. I think the stair direction is the right direction, especially for fire safety. It gets you out of the building, onto the sidewalk as quickly as possible. Rich?
Can't the door under the stairs not be on the end, to be on the side, on the ocean side? The door under the stairs?
Show me, you want to show me to me?
I'll show them on the plan. Rich, you may not have heard him say something about raising the stairway into the trash.
Yeah, Rich, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but have access on the side, not behind it. You said you don't want that.
No, sure, yeah, of course.
I'm going to hear what you guys
Yeah, I'll finish my proposal.
Rich, I understand, and just have a flush door as opposed to having a door, that's a drop.
Right, you were concerned if you turned the stairs around, that the door would be here. I'm saying, can't the door be here?
Of course it can. Of course.
And then they can not look at the steps, and then, they wouldn't be looking at the trash either. Do you understand what I'm saying?
We don't want to look at those steps.
But also the trash, you wouldn't be looking at trash that...
Put trash under the steps.
No, but exactly, but the access to the trash would be in the alley, not on the end.
The other thing I want to just bring up, Deborah Stone, this,
I have no objection as long as it's understood as we're attacking the public.
I just want to talk about the parking. My mom, Deborah Stone, 11 South Kenyon. One of the big concerns I have about this parking space is that my mom walks the dogs, and if this car is pulling out, they can't, they can't see. Like, my mom lets the dogs go off the leash, like, not off the leash, but extends the leash out. They can run the dog over. Or a baby or a child.
If you're walking up and down that whole street, you go back in that driveway's everywhere.
Yeah, but you can't see. You can't see. When you're backing out of your driveway, you have some point that you can see. You can see. They can't see. If he backs out of here, you can't see until you get to this point. And a little child can actually be running down this street, because we get a lot of people that park on South Kenyon because we have that wonderful sign, I'm being a little sarcastic, that says bridge this way, and everybody goes down that street. And then in the summer, the town doesn't enforce the parking. The parking at the end of the street, they park to the corner. And the other thing that I failed to mention about the parking, yeah, we're in the public. You told me I could talk. But you got to remember, we got a temple and a church, okay? And everybody parks on South Kenyon for the church. And they park basically to the middle of the block in the summer, in all year round. So we've got major parking on our street, because not all the other, like the other commercial districts don't have the church and a temple. So I just want to point that out.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, there's a lot of discussion here about the stair and trash enclosure, so I think there might be a fire issue with a trash enclosure underneath the only exit stair from that second floor apartment.
We will talk to the fire department about that, Clem. If that is the case, we will build a trash enclosure. Right now, there is a temporary trash enclosure back there. We will build a decorative trash enclosure if that is an issue with being on the stairs.
I'm not talking about appearance, I'm talking about fire safety.
I understand that. And what I'm saying is, if we can't do it on the stairs, pursuant to the fire department.
Your expert's raising her hand.
It's a code issue, and we can protect that as we do for any interior stair in an enclosure store. So we will deal with that. That's what we're saying. We do a fire-rated enclosure, and that will be allowed.
Fire-rated.
Okay, that's all I have, Mike.
Okay. I just have one question with the stairs. Could you come up first? Why do you, yes. Is it your contention that if the stairs are reversed, it would be, how would that make it safer?
It's not about safety, it's about aesthetics.
Okay.
I don't want to look at stairs
Okay.
going down.
That's good.
And feel like I'm in in Atlantic City.
Right.
and tenement. So if you reverse them, if you notice the apartments that are down two spaces down, the stairs are built within the structure. Okay, and I understand that he wants a nice apartment and probably he can't do that, but we really don't want to look at those stairs. Those stairs are aesthetically not pleasing. I suggested we enclose the stairs so we don't even see them at all. Like it becomes part of the structure.
Yeah, that's
Roger, I mean, like, but if you
That's not
turn them
gonna happen.
around and we don't have to look at them,
Mhm.
and you sort of enclose the back portion of it so we don't see it, I think aesthetically it would be a little bit more pleasing.
Okay.
But I would recommend that we see a colored elevation drawing to show that change. That's what I would recommend.
We will reverse the stairs and close off the back.
Yeah.
And we'll do it to match the budget.
Okay.
And then, oh,
Okay.
the other thing
Okay.
is the lights on the back of this porch, that they be residential lights, not like strobe lights.
We agree to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else from the public? Okay, public portion is closed.
Open and close.
You close it, he's supposed to.
You want me to take a shot at the conditions?
Yeah.
I have some good.
All right, here's what I have. Well, these things were said. Per Clem, these will be revised plans to show the drainage going under the sidewalk on Kenyon Avenue and emerging in the gutter. Reverse the stairway and close off the back and place the trash area under those enclosed stairs or elsewhere if code doesn't allow that.
Fire rated under the stairs.
Or fire rated under the stairs. Street trees and grass strips irrigated on Kenyon Avenue and Ventnor Avenue, I believe.
No.
Why not some trees on Ventnor Avenue?
Because you blocked the front of the building, you blocked the
Okay.
commercial zone, you blocked
I'm hearing the board saying they're not interested in Ventnor Avenue. Street trees with a grass strip and irrigation on Kenyon Avenue, shutters on the windows on Kenyon Avenue, low residential lighting on the side and rear facing the houses. I'm not sure about that sign that Christina has designed on the front. That
Sign will comply with
sign that would comply with the ordinance requirements.
and a recommendation for encroachment for the architectural features.
And if approved,
Thank
the board asks the city to consider license agreements. Did I miss anything?
And there's some broken curb that will be repaired.
I'm sorry.
A couple pieces of broken curb.
Repair broken curb. And sidewalk.
Sidewalk will be repaired as needed, absolutely.
Repair,
The back alley, I haven't seen it, but the back alley apparently is in disrepair.
We don't, Rich, I can't pay that whole way out, it's not mine.
no, the part behind the building. Repair broken concrete on the sidewalk, the back alley behind this property, and broken curbs
Okay.
along this property.
Did I miss anything?
No, I didn't miss anything you added.
I added some. That's it.
Okay, everybody, essentially, it's C variances, because it's a corner lot, it's front setbacks, and we can call them front or side, but front setback to the apartment, required 9 feet 2 inches, proposed 0 feet to the top of the first floor wall. Side setback to the right side, required 3 feet, proposed 0 feet to the apartment. Front setback to the decks on Kenyon Avenue, 6 feet 9 inches required, 0 feet proposed. And the setback for the decks, 3 feet required and 0 feet proposed. What I'm hearing from the testimony, and I think the board heard, is that there's party walls, common party walls and structures, which that's where they're building upon, which causes the 0-foot setbacks along with all the conditions as enunciated by Mr. Rubin.
Site plan.
And, thank you, and also for site plan approval. So it would be a motion in the affirmative for those items.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Clem Wozleski?
Well, I realize this is a permitted use, but the sideback issues are considerable, and without sideback relief, development may be very difficult. I have no problem with the sideback relief on over the party wall, but I think the setbacks on both Kenyon and Ventnor Avenues are going to create a situation that's going to have a negative impact on the neighborhood, which exceeds any advantage. I vote no.
So that's a no vote?
Yeah. Yes, that's it. I didn't hear his
Margaret
vote.
Goober?
I didn't hear his vote.
No. His vote was a no vote.
No.
Margaret Goober Nolte?
I understand that it is in a C1 zone, so it is a permitted use. I understand how the neighbors feel. I did grow up in that neighborhood. I worked in that commercial block for many years. I don't think that the addition is going to change the drainage problem that dramatically. It's a flat roof now, and I don't think that the parking space is going to dramatically change the parking problems that we all have in Margate. It is an ugly building now, and I think it's an improvement based upon the fact that the applicant is agreeing to improve the changes, make the changes, and satisfy the neighbors. I'm going to vote yes.
Craig Palmisano?
Margaret said everything I wanted to say. The parking issue, I know the street is tight. The church, the synagogue, on Saturdays and Sundays, I'm sure you overflow with parking. We're only adding one, maybe one car to the mix with the property, and it's a mixed use, and very pleasing and aesthetically nice to the neighborhood. I'm voting yes for it.
David Carter?
It's a commercial block. There's already 2 apartments up top. The parking situation is not going to change, and I vote yes.
Remy Pelosi?
It is a permitted use, and for the reasons stated by Margaret Cooper Nolte, I approve.
Joseph DiGirolamo?
It is in a commercial zone, and it appears as though they've agreed to fix the things that many of the residents were looking for in the area by reversing the steps and enclosing them and fixing some of the drainage problems, which, again, I agree with some of the board members, it's not going to fix it, but I'm going to vote in favor of it.
Rich Patterson?
In listening to the pretty much unanimous opinion of the neighbors and what their complaints are, what came to mind was what their complaints weren't things that we were deciding on tonight. I wish it was a height variance problem that blocked the sun. I totally agree with those people. The sun will be blocked. But the height is allowed there. Anything else could go there, could be a couple feet higher than this block. I would like to vote no for the neighbor's sake, but I don't see a valid reason to vote no here.
So I vote in the positive.
Mike Richmond?
I think that, like pretty much everybody else stated, one car is not going to really do anything for the parking situation. It's a commercial area. The rain, it's going to flood, whether it's a flat roof or it's a pitch roof. I think my main concern was the blockage of light and air. But like Rich said, the building is not, it's not a height variance that we're considering. I'm going to vote yes. I'm going to approve it.
The application passes 7-1. Chris, will you please sign?
5 minutes? 5 minutes. 5? Okay. We're going to take another 5-minute break.
Are you allowed to walk out? Oh, yeah, come on up. No, you know what, Rachel's, it was nice to hear everybody. Yeah, we appreciate it. You know what, it seems like you guys are
Did you vote? Did you vote on that?
No.
Huh? What'd you think?
It was, probably would have gone away if the majority did.
You know what? I did it. Yeah, he gave me an I probably
Sorry.
like the commissioners were the old guy. That's what I was trying to get out of it. Like, you know,
You did a good
like say more about what I don't talk about the work.
I
don't understand. My it's 15-minute parking in summer, and then no signs.
There's got to be a reason, because whenever I ask him for something that doesn't make sense, and he tells me, I'm like, oh, you know.
Well, am I right?
No,
Because I have you know, so how long are you going to be at the dentist? How long are you going to be at Ham's? How long are you going to be in the real estate?
How long are you going to be unless
Well,
Mike's
the
coming?
church, they park on roads.
Michael, are you sick? Are you in? Are you in for being allowed in?
Yeah, we need you. I thought you were buying drinks.
We should reach somebody out.
I thought you were buying drinks.
They said they need your wisdom.
Drink
They said they need your wisdom, that's it, but they don't need
Universal Supply order off the menu, you want a bottle of wine, pick your Pinot, pick what you want. So I was like, you got a pour of wine. Go back later if you need me for my wisdom, I'm here.
Okay, so then you just want to hear what Rogers.
Yeah, I mean, if there's,
All right, let's
if you
go.
need me for a forum, I'm here, but I shouldn't.
No, we're fine. Okay, let's go, Michael.
Cheers, everybody.
Mike, just start them. Phil said. So start the next case, please. You know, it's going to be too late. I think it's going to be late. Sounds like fun.
You ready? Okay, here we go. Okay, our last case is Mazel, 2012 Family Limited Partnership, 110 South Exeter Avenue, Block 6.01, Lot 13, in the S30 District to grant a C variance as set forth in the staff committee application, including spiral staircase to upper floors and oversized shed. Taxes are current and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied.
Roger Rubin? Yes. The subject property is a two-story brick residence to be demolished and replaced by the 2.5-story house by Donald Zacher Architect, submitted with the application package. The lot is 85 feet wide and 62.5 feet deep, 5,312.5 square feet, which is close to double that required in the S30 zone. The proposed house complies with zoning, except for a proposed oversized shed and a proposed spiral stairway from the first floor porch to the second floor porch on the beachfront. The lot, as you will see in your site visits, is on the beach, and the proposed house will have excellent beach ocean views as well as a view of the Margate Fishing Pier. This is an upside-down house as designed, with bedrooms and a den on the first floor, living room, dining room, kitchen, plus 2 bedrooms on the second floor, as well as a third-floor master bedroom suite with a legal oceanside deck. Variances requested and comments. Number 1, stairs to the second floor. The land use ordinance states at 175:30C7, there shall be no outdoor stairs to second stories in single-family zones. The Zacher plan includes a spiral stairway from the beachfront first-floor deck to the second-floor deck directly above it. The proposed stairway is 13 feet from the rear property line, and at that point, the neighbor to the rear has a blank garage wall and its roof directly on that property line, blocking visibility or activity of it from any homes in the rear. Also, in consideration of concerns about future illegal conversions, that is not likely on a beachfront home, especially on an upside-down house, as proposed. One must consider the value to the homeowner of this arrangement, especially when the kitchen and dining room and other living areas are on the second floor. Second variance is shed size, wherein the maximum area is 80 square feet, and the proposed L-shaped shed is 130 square feet. Also, the maximum height is 9 feet, and as drawn, it is 10.5 feet high. The board may consider that even a legal shed, which was 10 feet by 8 feet, would block any minimal view from the next-door neighbor's house to the ocean, so this shed creates no additional obstruction. Also, as stated, a garage would be legal at this location with a footprint of 250 square feet and 14 feet high. Such garage, which people are opting for these days in by-right new house plans for storage purposes, would certainly obstruct more air and breezes and occasionally sunlight from a neighboring house. If approved, no conditions are suggested at this time.
Thank you. The applicant and its principal, Terry Auerbach's here with her husband, Alan Auerbach, Dr. Alan Auerbach, owners of the property who were speaking. light, air, and open space versus what could be placed there, a 250 square foot garage or even a 400 square foot two-car garage. I think the shed at that location, the Auerbachs are being very reasonable. Surfboards for the kids, their boogie boards, their bikes, whatever it may be, and also leaves the garage open for use. I think if you were to see a 12-foot garage there, it would be stuffed in the corner, and you would just block that much more light air and open space of both the neighbor to the rear and the neighbor to the north. In addition, at that location, you can have actually two accessory structures, if I'm not wrong, so they could easily make up the space of those of that one shed with two sheds. I don't know if you count the spa as an accessory structure, but you can have two accessory structures.
Yeah, okay. Close enough.
With that having been said, they're the only variances associated. It's for the oversized shed, and it's for the spiral staircase. Don Zacher is here. He can address the situation. I would like to incorporate Roger's report for variance justification into our presentation. Don can here to answer questions if you have any. The Auerbachs are here if you have any questions. You have been here for a long time and heard enough people talk. I don't know that we need to hear anymore.
Any questions from the board? No. Okay, anybody from the public like to speak? Okay, public portion is closed.
These are the Kayleys. They've been sitting here all night. They have a very nice house across the street. We just wanted to come over and see what was going on. They are in town and their neighbors across the street.
There's no opposition from the neighbors? No, okay.
I don't think I have any conditions. No, I have no conditions.
All right, the application is for a C variance relief. Outside stairs aren't permitted. They're requesting stairs outside from the deck to the second floor, and they're also proposing shed size variance. 80 feet permitted. 80 square feet is permitted. 130 square feet is proposed. Also, I believe, Chris, has it changed the height?
The height is 10.5.
Yeah.
We have
10.5
9 feet required. So yeah, 9 feet is permitted, and 10.5 feet is proposed. So those are the variances, and no conditions. And I need a motion for approval of the application.
I'll make the motion that we approve the application with the conditions as stated by our solicitor.
I'll second.
Tom Collins?
I vote in favor of the application. It's very de minimis, the two variance requests. Obviously, it's not going to be an illegal second floor with the stairway. I give Mr. Zacher a lot of credit. I think he did a very nice design. And it's going to be a really beautiful home in a beautiful neighborhood. And give the neighbors a lot of credit, too, for hanging in and supporting.
Clem Wasleski?
The variance for the shed, I approve of. It has less impact on the neighbors than a garage in the same location, which would be permitted, would have. As far as the stairway is concerned, because of the upside-down nature of the planning of the house, it makes perfect sense. And the nearest structure on the only adjacent private property is the blank wall, the back of a pool house on the neighbor. It used to be Mr. Katz. I don't know who has it now. So I vote yes on that also.
Brenda Talby?
I agree with Clem. The variance request is de minimis. It's a lovely home, and I approve.
Margaret Gubernalty?
I also agree with Mr. Wasleski and Ms. Commissioner Tawby. There's no negative impact. It's a beautiful home, and I vote yes.
Craig Palmisano?
I agree with my fellow board members. No negative impact. I vote yes.
David Carter?
I agree with the proposal, and the others, the board members.
Remy Pelosi?
I vote to approve. I'm in agreement with the other board members.
Rich Patterson?
I also vote for approval for the aforementioned reasons.
Mike Richmond?
I think the shed is a much better situation than a garage, and I do think that the board needs to revisit stairways from the first to second floor, because I think that the reason that was originally implemented is antiquated, so I approve.
Thank you very much.
Application passes 9-0.
Thank you all very much. Have a nice evening. See you next month.
The board, we're going to, excuse me? Open to the public? Oh, we're going to open.
Just say open to the public, close the public.
Okay, open to the public.
Does anyone have anything to say? No. Then close the public.
Close to the public.
Okay, everybody, we have a couple of more. We have an important item to go over, then you can go home.
Mike Slim here.
Board members.
Can we get everybody's attention for a couple minutes?
Do you want to go home? Very quickly, on March 13th...
Excuse me, we have a meeting to conduct here. Would you people take it outside? Hello?
We're done entertaining you.
Just take it outside, please.
On March 13th, I sent you all an email, I hope you all got it, about a request from the commissioners to the planning board that the planning board should take action to immediately embark on a special study of bayfront bulkheads, decks, grades, accessory structures, the whole deck and bulkhead system along the canals and the bayfronts. Because it's become very critical since Hurricane Sandy that those issues be resolved even before we get into a total major master plan, so that we could show the state and the federal people that we are taking every step necessary to get our flood ratings in order. After I sent this memo out to you, the commissioners at a subsequent meeting said they would like that study to expand to beachfront bulkheads as well, which are now required to be at 13 feet and AVD 1988, to look into decks, bulkheads, and street-end bulkhead situations on the beachfront. I discussed this with the chairman as to how we would go about doing this, and some of my thoughts were in my memo, but I'll turn it over to the chairman now on Rich's ideas on how we proceed. Did you know I was going to do that? Did you know I was going to do that or not?
No, I didn't.
I thought that's why you came.
You told me I had to come. What we were going to do, based on your recommendations, was have a committee of 3 to initially review this and then bring some recommendations to the board, and then from there go to the commissioners. And the committee of 3 is Tom, me, and Remy.
I heard you and
I say it once, lady. Tom, Remy, and I. It's late, I'm tired. And of course, and Roger to direct us. There won't be any meetings on that for the next 3 weeks, but after that we can discuss getting together. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. We can get together. Oh, we can't start until after.
You can't start it for 3 weeks.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Of course.
Because it's all about you.
Yeah. Yeah, the week after, whatever, where the 4 of us can get together and then decide where we go from there. But whatever the 4 of us do, it will be brought before the board for the board's approval.
Does that sound
Does that
reasonable
sound
and fair
okay
to
to the board?
everybody? Whatever the committee does, we'll report back to the board as to who's being looked at, who's going to be interviewed, what the contents of the study will be, and then eventually we'll get into costs. Then we'll get back to the commissioners and say, here it is, where's the dough, And the dough may be coming from grant money, hopefully, or combined with other city funds. But it's a very critical study that has to be done, and the consultant that's selected to do this job has to have a planning background and a very heavy engineering background.
And one of the reasons I picked Tom, he's always been concerned and interested in the bulkheads on the bayfront and everything. If there's anyone else on the board that has any concerns or whatever, that please bring them to Roger, that we have some ideas to discuss. Anyone that's not on that committee that has some concerns, please bring them to Roger before 3 weeks is up.
Is this just city property, city bulkheads?
No.
Private homeowners?
Most of it is privately, most bulkheads are privately owned, so it would come under zoning. What you're allowed to do currently comes under zoning. There's a minimum and a maximum.
You're talking about trying to get bulkheads for private homeowners in canals, the whole, like they did in Atlantic City for the tunnel? They did all Venice Park.
No, we have them, but there's bulkhead height requirements now, there's deck height requirements now that need to be updated, so that's what we're going to do, is update them for the entire city, not just the bay now, apparently the beach too.
Can I throw a real curveball in? We take all these bulkheads and responsibilities up for parking for townhouses and condos that we don't need to take, like Amherst Avenue, and we're rebuilding them right now. Why don't we give them to the people that own the docks?
Well, we're actually not talking about the Amherst Avenue restaurant strip. That's not part of this study. That's a whole separate world in which we're applying for, Brenda, I think it's a $3 million grant to secure whatever bulkheads the city doesn't currently own and own them all, and then to re-bulkhead to possibly build a boardwalk, promenade, and other improvements. That's a different story.
I apologize.
No. Good clarification.
We're there every year spending money on those bulkheads.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
Yeah, and in fact, the city's going to spend about $25,000 for I think that's the figure, Brenda, also for a repair. Is it already?
50, but we think it's going to cost
Is it?
25. We appropriated 50, but...
This was just a question.
Yeah, because the street is in a little trouble right now.
What's that?
Because Amherst Avenue is in trouble.
Yeah.
Collapsing.
Yeah.
I mean, if we could turn that over to somebody else, I think it would...
Then they won't comply.
Well, then it's up to them.
No,
can't. Private homeowners won't do it.
That's not private owners.
You can't give away your problems, Mike.
Where I went, so...
No, but if we get the big grant, it'll be great. Okay, your curveball
I think the
received.
problem is we need to fix the bulkhead because all the infrastructure, the streets, I mean, that's all vulnerable, so we need to get it fixed no matter who owns it, I think.
Right.
Has to be done.
Okay, that's it.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
Are we finished? Can I go?
Oh, man. Thanks for the flower.
Yeah, sorry. At first I didn't know. And then I was like,
Send a bill for
it's interesting. It was a case. Are you playing? It was a, are you going to order a transfer?